Today is Thursday, September 26, 2024. This is an Education Committee meeting. My name is Nicole Khan, the chair, and will be facilitating this evening. I'd like to start with attendance. Please state your name and role. I will start to my right.
Linda Stone, School Board.
Matthew McCarthy, Tech Integration.
Tracy Osecki, School Board.
Ed Tate, School Board.
Jota Piley, School Board.
Joe Hidalgo, School Board.
Ann Horner, School Board.
Nicole Crawford, Director of Elementary Education.
Andy Sanko, Superintendent.
Anthony Devlin, Director of Special Services.
Andrea Mangle, Director of District Communications.
Michael Roosevelt, School Board. Bob Hickey, School Board.
Great, thank you. Those who are here this evening, please make sure you have signed in. I'd like to state a couple of reminders since it's been a few months since our last education meeting, and tonight's agenda may have a couple of topics that may bring forth some, lively discussion amongst my board colleagues. I ask that you remain professional and respectful during the meeting, and please wait to be recognized by the chair so that when we're having conversation and dialogue, those listening at home or in the room can be heard. And thank you all those that attended tonight's meeting. Quickly, one more thing. In August, as the education chair, and this is common historically and previously, the education chair meets with administration to kind of discuss the school year's topics, initiatives that they would like to explore. I've had some questions, inquiries from a couple of the board colleagues, and I was planning to share this evening as well, not only for my board colleagues, but also the community at large. I am excited to state that some of the initiatives, not including the topics on this evening's agenda, we will be taking a thorough look at our 2024 PSSA, Keystone, and AP data results in the upcoming months, as well as MTSS and Swiss data and presentations, the PAY survey, which is the PA youth survey through the Pennsylvania Commission on Crime and Delinquency, otherwise we refer to as the PCCD, and that is specifically for grades 6, 8, 10, and 12 grades. We also will continue with discussion of full-day kindergarten updates. I was asked by administration, due to the ongoing work, they will make presentations on an every other month basis, starting with this month, as well as information from CREF and their new initiatives and goals, continued discussion of the possibility of exploring expanding the Sloan program for middle school students based upon need, continued work with our special education department, taking a look at our high school schedule. I know it's been at least 35 years before any look at our high school schedule, and I'm sure between those many decades, we could make modification, update, modernize, or just to explore to see what the options are out there. We've also discussed potentially a later start time. Again, these are all initial exploration and they will take some time. Continued discussion of Nights for Knowledge, just to name a few. And I would also like to mention that none of these topics are really new. A lot of them are ongoing. Some of them have been brought forth by administration in previous years. I myself have stood and sat in the audience and listened to presentations by cabinet and board members. And that kind of sums up. And I'm excited for the upcoming agenda in the school year and to work with my colleagues in administration. So with that, thank you for indulging me, and I would like to turn it over to Mrs. Crawford, and Mr. Funk is currently unavailable. He's having I don't know, are we allowed to say? He's on vacation celebrating anniversary overseas, so we wish him a great trip. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Khan. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to begin tonight by reading the following statement. This is just a reminder that for the most accurate and reliable information concerning our district, please refer to resources, websites, and social media platforms managed by the Council Rock School District. We advise the community to exercise caution when relying on the accuracy of social media and ask the community to verify any social media content with the district for accuracy. If you question what you are seeing, need a fact check, or additional details on a matter, please reach out to the district directly. Our contact information is readily available on our website at www.crsd.org. So I'd like to begin by sharing the agenda for this evening. We're going to begin by hearing about dual enrollment. followed by an update on Summer Academy from this past summer, full-day kindergarten, the elementary report card revision. Then we will be learning more about extended school year from 2024, the special education plan committee update, and we'll be ending with our last agenda item related to the SEL survey. At this time, it is my pleasure to welcome Mrs. Shyla Jackson up. She is our Business Computers and Technology Coordinator and Professional Development Facilitator. Thank you, Mrs. Jackson, for joining us.
Hi, good evening, everyone. So I came to talk to you about dual enrollment, which we are very excited about. We have been doing it for quite some time with Gwynedd Mercy, a few years with University of Iowa, and then just starting last year, Bucks County Community College. So I did put some numbers up there for you. We have all the courses are there listed. So with University of Iowa, that program works a little bit differently. We just have one course, it's entrepreneurship. And with that course, at the end of the year, students have to take a proficiency exam. And our students, we have a 90% passing rate on that. And once they take that test, then they apply for the credits themselves. So we don't really take, we don't really keep track of that because it's on the students, and the students have 4 years to do that. So during college, they can contact University of Iowa and receive those 3 college credits whenever they want. So the other school, we have Gwynedd Mercy. So we've been involved with Gwynedd Mercy for quite some time, and we have 4 courses which students can receive college credits for. And that is $400. And Gwynedd Mercy is so easy to work with, and we just collect the checks to Gwynedd Mercy, and then we mail them on. And I don't have a total yet for this year for Gwynedd Mercy. So far we have, I think, 85 students, but we won't complete that enrollment until Monday. And then our newest partnership is with Bucks County Community College. And the interesting thing with Bucks is that our students are actually enrolled in Bucks. So the process to kind of start it off at the beginning of the year is a little bit more because the students are actually enrolling in the community college. And so what that means is that it's their first college that they've been accepted to, and also they can use all the facilities at Bucks County Community College. So whether that's their counseling services, the library, anything at all that they have there, the campus, they can go there and use that. And you can see that our numbers have gone up. When we started it with Gwynedd Mercy back in 2019, the beginning of that school year, we only had 18 students. But each year it has grown, and this year we already have more students than that. So this year it will grow. And with Bucks County Community College, I was very excited to see our numbers really jumped. They almost doubled this year with Bucks. So I was really excited to see that. And I love just seeing how interested all the students are in this program. And we have contacted all of the colleges, not all of the colleges our students go to, but the most popular colleges that our students go to from Council Rock. And all of them, except for University of Pennsylvania, is the only college that doesn't accept the dual enrollment credits. And some of them accept the credits as the actual course. Those that don't accept it as the actual course, like Intro to Business, they accept it as general education credits.
Awesome.
Yeah. So, and they send, like Bucks County Community College actually automatically sends the transcript right to us. And then for Gwynedd, the students just get a link so that they can request it. And all of that is done at the end of the year. And Bucks County Community College is a little bit less money. I didn't mention that. It's $375, and students will pay that directly to the college. So sometime in October, they receive an email, and parents or students just go on and pay that way, right through a credit card. So it's done a little bit different, but
Right.
very exciting.
Thank you. Questions? I think Mr. Hidalgo and then
Sure.
Mr.
So
Hidalgo, yes.
I thank you. I mean, I remember someone asking about Bucks County and why we weren't doing dual enrollment. So I see we've been with Gwynedd for a while. Is there any history on why we only started with the one? I see it was a small enrollment,
Yes.
and that's really grown too. Was that just because we were piloting it, or what was kind of the stops, or how did this develop? And I'm happy because I'm seeing major participation with our neighboring college there. It's great.
Yes.
But do you know what the background is to it? Because I'm not.
Yes. So Bucks County Community College used to want to have the students go there to take the credits. And it was decided by probably all of you long ago that they didn't want to do that. So we waited until Bucks, and we've been in communication with them for many years. And we just got to the point now where they are accepting the credits, and students do not have to leave our campus to go to their campus to get the credits. And our teachers are able to teach the course.
Wow.
And I should mention with both of these colleges, all of our teachers that teach the courses, they do all have to have a master's degree, and they do have to turn in their resumes and their transcripts from their college, and the college vets them to make sure that it's appropriate. And, it's a process in order to get a college, to work with a college, because they do go through all of our courses. They have to go through their board, make sure that it's equivalent and that the rigor is similar to what's being done at their college. So it's
Great.
exciting that we have 8 out of our 12 courses, are at the level that they can pass the, right, that they
That's
accept.
great, I'm glad I asked.
May I just jump on that? That's okay. So, under the previous president of Bucks County Community College as a cabinet, we met with them to try to figure out and help assist the work that Shiloh was doing. Under the new president, Dr. Patrick Jones, our cabinet has a meeting set up with Dr. Jones and other administrators from the community college to investigate ways that we can have more partnership with the community college, whether that means additional courses or ease of access for our students. But one of the real big hurdles that we got over, in large part due to Shiloh's work, was our students are accepted, our senior students are accepted into Bucks County Community College, which is one of the pathways for graduation.
And we also were able to negotiate less of a price for tuition than all the other schools in the area that do it, so.
Great, thanks. Ms. Horner?
So it's open to seniors? They take, and then how is it communicated?
Well, it's
it
open
through
to
their-
seniors they can be accepted, but
As
seniors,
seniors.
yeah, they can be accepted, but, what was your other part of the question, sorry?
And how is it communicated? Is it through the counselor to get on there?
Well, it's in the
courses,
program
or
planning.
it's in
the program planning book, and so the counselors also talk about it. And then when the students sign up for the course, depending on the college, at Gwen and Mercy, we discuss at the beginning of the school year with the students, those that are interested in it. And then with Bucks, as soon as we get the class lists, an email goes home, and there's a Canvas course that they can start filling the information out, because if they are in 9th or 10th grade, they have to take placement tests. And if their GPA is not a 3.5 as a junior, 3.4 as a senior, they have to take the placement test, and also depending on their math scores. So we do have to send a lot of the students, we have to send their transcripts over if they do not want to take the placement exams. But they're free, they're free to take, and students can take them online too, so they don't have to go to the college to take them. But the option to go to the college to take the placement tests is available.
Great, thank you.
Mr.
Hickey?
Is there a deadline for a senior, like what is the deadline
Yes.
for a senior to opt in or not?
So yesterday was our hard stop for Bucks County Community College. We say it's a week before, but then we have a little bit of extra, because there's a lot of things that they have to do. They have to fill out an application, we have to get the transcripts to them, we have to, just figure out who has to take placement tests. There's different placement tests they have to take. So that's a really quick process with Bucks, believe it or not, especially since most of our courses are alternate day, so we don't see the students every day. And then Gwen and Mercy is a little bit more flexible, and Monday is our deadline for Gwynedd. And so on Monday, I will go to each school and pick up the checks, FedEx them right to them, and we have a Google Sheet that we share with them to get all the names. And then they get notification that all is good through their email.
Thank you.
Sure. Yeah, it's really a cool program.
Any other questions? I do have just a couple clarification questions. The prices that were up there for 400, 400, and 375, that cost is per class or per credit hour?
Per course.
Per course, okay.
Per course, yeah. So it's 3 credits for $400, or 3 credits, $375 for a bus.
Okay, great, thank you. And then also just for clarification, for, out of all the, I guess, colleges or universities that were contacted that would accept the credits, because I know I had this question at the pre-agenda meeting, University of Pennsylvania is the only one that would not accept those credits?
Out of the colleges that I contacted, and I contacted the percentage, the top percentage of schools.
Okay.
So I think it was the top 12 schools that our students go to, and I got that information from the counselors.
Okay, and that information, I assume, was very forthcoming when students are interested in enrolling, that these are the possibilities and these are the schools? Because
Yes.
we wouldn't want a family or students
Yes.
to take the course and not able to transfer the credit.
And the teachers always tell the students too that if you know like where you want to go or where you're hoping to go, double check it. But I do double check it. I did just double check it this year, and like University of Pennsylvania, they did used to accept the 3 credits
Okay.
as a general elective, not as the course, but they did change that in the last couple years. So I do try to keep on top of that just to check so we can have a little bit of a running list for that. But even schools I didn't check that. I know both of my kids, they were able to, their colleges are not one of the top 15 that our students go to, and they accepted them as well.
Great, thank you
Yes.
so much.
Sure.
Any other questions? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sorry. Okay, at this time, I would like to ask Mrs. Gina Booth to come up, and she's going to provide an update on Summer Academy 2024. And I also would like to acknowledge that Mrs. Gina Booth, now the principal at Richborough Elementary School. So we've not introduced you in this setting at an ed committee meeting yet as the principal of Richborough. So
Hi, everyone.
how does it
Thank you for
feel
having me.
coming from a meet creek tonight, your PTO?
Yes, we had our back-to-school picnic tonight, right before this, so got a little bit wet, but we are all good. That was unexpected, and that's okay. The kids had a good time, so. Thank you for having me back again this year to talk a little bit about our summary of Summer Academy. The program was attended. We had, well attended again this year. We had 321 registered students throughout Council Rock. We offered programs for elementary students, and this year we added on something that we wanted to try in partnership to help support our students still working to pass their Keystone assessments, was the opportunity to come and work in their Keystone readiness areas of Algebra 1 and literature. The focus, as it always has been, is to review and preview the concepts that are coming up in the following year. This year, we really focused on the programs that the students had been working on throughout the year. We were doing supplemental learning sessions in Reading Horizons. So we were building on the foundational knowledge that the students had during the school years and continuing to work on the same things that they were very familiar with in grades 1 and 2. Our English language learners throughout the district had the opportunity to participate in supplemental learning sessions. So not only were they in the classes in their small groups, but they were also coming out according to their needs. So if they were level 1 English language learners, they were learning together at the same time. They benefited greatly from those supportive sessions as well. New additions, we're always looking to improve the program and make sure that they relate to the current student needs. Something that we felt strongly about this year was really introducing the idea of executive functioning skills. Talking with our kids, teaching them how to study, what kind of systems work great and work best for you. Talking to them about the power of yet, because if you think about the population of students who come to Summer Academy, they are the children who need a little bit extra more oftentimes. So we want to make sure that we can provide them with some tricks of the trade that help boost their confidence and really get into the nitty-gritty of how to study for things, how to prepare, how to note take, and how to organize themselves so they have some good strategies that are in place to be successful for the coming school year. This year, we also included visual literacy skills. So not only are kids reading and talking about what they're reading, but what can they pull from the pictures that they see and they notice? How can they start to really look at the text in a different, unique way? And then we talked obviously about the Keystone Readiness courses already. So I love to come here and share quantitative information with you, but I also think it's really important to think about what we can't see and note from a paper and pencil point of view. One of the greatest takeaways I think from Summer Academy is kids being in good company with each other. They are all together supporting each other. They are not in an environment where that is heterogeneously grouped, where we're looking at kids who are always raising their hand, always knowing the answer. They are in good company because they are kids that often need a little bit more and might be a little bit not so ready to ask questions in front of the general audience of a whole group. So our groups are small, but they're designed to be purposeful that way. So kids are asking questions. They're getting some great quality instruction by our Council Rock staff that are there to meet those needs and close those gaps. And really try and build on that foundational knowledge. It boosts confidence in a whole new way. And often parents tell me that that is the biggest and greatest takeaway their children have for Summer Academy. So I'm always very proud of that and the work that our teachers do to promote that in those small group learning sessions. This year we really wanted to stick. It was very important to us to stick and continue with what the students were used to. We use dibbles and Acadians and most common words, and they're very used to those assessments throughout the year. So that's why we decided to do pre and post data on the same things and the same measures that they were using during the school year. So happy to report, and we just did a little bit of a data sampling to share out tonight. It's certainly not all of the data that we have to share, but for time's sake, really wanted to capture. We talk a lot about the younger students that go to Summer Academy, but we wanted to include those older students too. So in the 6th grade that we wanted to present to you tonight, 93% of the rising 6th grade students evidenced academic gains in the area of reading comprehension. So they were given the Dibbles maze, the exact same thing they're given during the school year as a pre-assessment, and then we gave it after the 12 days during the post-assessment. 93% of the students who regularly attended Summer Academy in the 6th grade were able to improve to 93%. It's always tricky because our kids in the summer aren't consistent. Sometimes they come for all 12 days, sometimes they're there for a week, sometimes they're there for 8 days. We don't want to turn any of the students away, in my perspective, and we've all shared this same perspective. If you can come 4 days, we're happy you're with us for 4 days, so we don't want to turn anyone away. Our rising 2nd grade students, most common words is an assessment that we work on during the regular school year with our students. 94 of the regularly attending rising 2nd grade students were able to show growth between pre and post assessments, and 100% of our rising grade 1 students evidenced academic gains in the area of math computation, using those Acadians measures that they use during the regular school year to help measure growth. So it's very exciting for them to kind of recognize they're getting the practice in taking those measures again. It's exciting for us as a staff to build that sense of community and a school culture in a relatively short amount of time where the students feel welcome and confident and really successful when they leave out.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions?
Mr. Tate?
How are we in terms of capacity, and where do we offer Summer Academy?
Originally, we, after COVID, that's when Summer Academy kind of became a bigger boom. And we haven't really wanted to reduce who we're offering Summer Academy to and who we're thinking of students in good fit and matches. So Summer Academy is actually held at Collin Middle School, and it has been since I've been a part of the Summer Academy program to make sure that we fit the students. We don't necessarily need the building, but we use it because our class sizes are smaller and purposefully designed that way. So it's adorable to see little kindergartners, but they navigate it. We keep them downstairs where they're safe. And I also really enjoy having it there for our elementary students who are rising into a middle school. It's like a nice little transition for them too. So it works out to be a great space.
Okay, I was just wondering about a couple things. One is, do we have adequate capacity to handle all the demand? And the second is, would we better serve the district by offering Summer Academy in 2 locations, for example? And I'm sure there's a lot of reasons why not, but I was just curious.
I think when I first came on, we had the high school split a little bit that way. We offered some sessions at Council Rock North they were over with me at Holland Middle School at that time. So it seemed to make more sense as we saw numbers that we could all take them in together into one place. We've tried to do different things across the district with Nights for Knowledge that way, and we still kind of get the same total number of students. So, it's something that we can talk about moving forward, but we have tried to kind of purposefully place them in different areas. The nice thing about Holland Middle School is the location of it, even though it's in the southern end of the district, it's pretty centralized to, the bypass and Buck Road, so we haven't had, much of a problem. We still see kids from Sophiestone and Wrightstown area coming down, to be a part of that location as well.
Good. And capacity?
We're
We're
great.
fine?
We have a few extra classrooms there,
I meant in terms of slots.
Yes, we're fine.
Good.
Yep.
Thank you.
All right, Ms. Oseki, Ms. Stone, and Mr. Hickey.
Kind of going off of Ed's question, I wanted to ask about the 80% attendance. To me, that doesn't seem that great. That's just because it's 12 days and it could be any 12 days if people have vacations and things like that. Is 80% good in your experience, or?
That's pretty typical of where we fall. It's so tricky to run programs in the summer when you're running for a duration. We've tried to do it a couple different ways throughout the time that I've been there, and this is kind of where our threshold lies. And like we had said, we don't like to turn anyone away.
Mm-hmm.
So if they register, they'll register and they'll say, well, I can only come for the first week. And I'll say, that's great, we'll love to have you for a first week. So that kind of skews the attendance numbers. And it's really tricky to get an accurate, overall attendance because the kids are in or out. Sometimes they'll come the first week, not the middle week, and the third week. So we're happy to have them when they can be with us.
How are the students invited to participate, and how many of the students, what is the response rate for kids who are?
That's a great question. We send out, my goodness, when I do that listserv, I think it's thousands of invitations to students. Students who are receiving math support during the regular school year, literacy support during the school year, Title I support during the school year, all of our English language learners during the school year. And then anybody who picks up the phone and says, hey, can my kid come? The answer is always yes. So we never turn away students. We try and get as many students as we can involved in the program because not only are they making academic gains, but they're also building that confidence piece that helps them be successful, not just for the 12 days, but that belief in themselves that they can ask questions and they're comfortable to do so back when they see their friends, in the fall in the larger class.
So would you say that of the thousands of emails, the response rate, like people who are coming for at least some portion of it, is 50% or 75% or 20%?
That's a great question. We usually say a third. For whatever reason, the way it has shuffled out over the years, the turnaround is always about a third of the students that we kind of send that initial email blast to are the ones that register. And then again, anybody else that asks, calls me, emails me, a teacher says, oh, I met with a parent and they're asking about Summer Academy. We say, share my information. We'll get them signed up right away. So.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Ms. Stone?
Well, Tracy asked 2 of my questions, but what the grade levels that are included?
Let's see. This year we had rising 1st through 7th, and then we offered our 2 high school classes. We've tried many different combinations of grades and trying to get everybody and anybody in who wanted to come and be a part of the program. For whatever reason, our older kids don't really attend. We invite them, we want them to come, but it's difficult for them to attend. A lot of, especially our high school students, they're working in the summer. We've tried to run full high school programs during the summer and they just don't come. A lot of the kids are involved in camps and sports that conflict during those summer months. And so this is, we feel like our sweet spot is definitely, that rising 1 through 7. A lot of families, as students transition from elementary to middle school, they kind of start to continue to encourage their students, this will be a good idea for you to go. And we still have strong numbers in those rising 7th grade classes.
And how long is the program? How many weeks?
It's 3 weeks, Monday to Thursday, and we are about 3 hours each session, give or take.
It's 1 3-week session.
Yes.
Okay.
It used to be two-week sessions, but instead we said, hey, let's get the kids longer, so we clumped them together, and everybody gets a full 3-week session offered to them.
And you felt there was more participation with the second option, correct?
Yep.
Compared to the previous.
Thank you. Mr. Hickey?
You answered my question during a previous discussion. Thanks.
Okay. I actually had a couple questions, and I know I had asked them previously. In terms of notification or communication to families, having an elementary school child and any parent that's listening or had young children, summer creates, or the potential for summer creates a lot of angst for parents around the winter time, January and February in our district, planning for summer camp. So parents are ready in January to start their summer camp registration. Is the summer academy also, is the registration timeline similar to that, or is that farther down the school year?
We usually push out our registration sometime in March because we know that we start to see, summer camp programs are coming up and things like that. The tricky part about pushing out the recommendation letters or the formal type of invitations that you may have seen over the years is that we want to make sure that we are getting as many students as need support at that time. So for example, we can't predict what's going to come from that second part of the school year, but we want to get to a pretty good spot in the school year where we have a good sense of the large population of students that would benefit from those programs. But certainly something easy to do next year would be to put on the website what the dates are. Like I always know what the dates are. At least you can hold it as a family and then, intend on those invitations coming at that March time. That's a great suggestion.
I think that's important. That might even help numbers as you move forward. Mr. Roosevelt, did you have a question?
Yeah, real quick. I was just thinking about the data that Dr. Barnes was conducting for this board, this district, and listening to you speak about this program. It seems to have wonderful responses and some really good data that most of the kids are benefiting something from attending. And when we look at Nights for Knowledge, another successful program, and then listening to you share additional answers to some of the board's questions about this, it makes me wonder, should we and can we expand this? Should more kids be attending when looking at the benefits that could be received in their Keystones and PSSAs before that, right? Should we try to move more kids from up those ladders of learning? And can we, if we should?
I think that's creatively what we think about all the time. How can we gather more kids into programs like this because we see the benefit?
I think that's something that a lot of members in this community would benefit from. And many of them probably don't know about this, and I would think it would be fantastic if this district, with this data and these successes, can try to open both of these programs up in coming years. That would be great.
Just going off of Mr. Roosevelt's point, and at this point just kind of brainstorming, as you say, is how to make it more successful or more inclusive. It's a 3-hour program, right, every day. So that's a challenge for elementary parents. If we were to, and I imagine that has a lot to do with enrollment. So if we were to expand it, make it longer, something like that, a partnership with a after camp, after school, program, maybe at Holland Middle School, something like that, to make it a full-day program, I think would be a necessity, because parents aren't available to pick up their kids at 11:30 for 4 weeks in the summer, or 5 weeks in the summer. It just can't happen.
I think that's an excellent idea, and piggybacking off both Ms. Osecki and Mr. Roosevelt, I know one question I also had brought up was, it's 3 weeks kind of in July right now, would there be a possibility of a second session, whether it's continuation of those students that are thriving, or an opportunity for a family to have another 2-week session, because they couldn't make that 3-week session in July. This is all great, and I think, as you move forward, Ms. Booth, and I'm sure whoever will take your place will do a fantastic job. I just wanted to also, just notification that currently there's no payment for this program because it's paid through the ESSER funds, which this summer was the last of the funds. So I know I brought that question up to administration and our plans moving forward as we discuss about expanding the program, inviting more families, what we potentially do in terms of the financing or budgeting for this. So not really a question, sorry, Ms. Booth. I know she's looking at Dr. Sink, it was more of just a statement, sorry.
I come up with the idea.
All good points to consider, really good feedback, and we'll certainly keep that in mind moving forward.
Great.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
Thank you for coming. Okay, at this time, I would like to ask Ms. Tammy Gary, our Supervisor of Curriculum and Instruction, to come up. Ms. Ann Bell, our District Coordinator of Professional Development. Ms. Nicole Whiteley, a kindergarten teacher at Rolling Hills Elementary School. And Mrs. Lauren McCusper, a Goodnow Elementary School kindergarten teacher. So this is our team this evening who will be a part of our full-day kindergarten update and presentation. So it is my pleasure to begin tonight sharing first and foremost how excited and honored we are, and many who are not in this room this evening, to be a part of this work. It's really, again, energizing, and we're really thrilled to be able to share and highlight purposeful play, which is what our focus will be tonight. So just taking a couple steps back, and I've shared previously that after the full-day kindergarten initiative was approved in June, we very quickly got to work, and one of the first things that we did, we started to look at this component of purposeful play. As you remember, Dr. Ryan Murphy conducted quite a bit of research, and our team really worked hard to wrap our heads around purposeful play, the importance of play, and we'll be diving a little bit deeper into that this evening. But during our spring visits to various school districts, it was a really great opportunity for all of us who are a part of those visits to learn, to see how full-day kindergarten looked in different districts, what we liked, what we might not choose to move forward with. And I do, and I've shared this before, I do have to say that Souderton Area School District, we believe, has done an outstanding job since moving to the full-day kindergarten model of implementing this into their full-day schedule. Everyone from Council Rock who went on those site visits to Souderton, and there have been several since last spring, walked away very impressed. Their rollout was very organized, research-based, talking with teachers, general education, special education, specialists, superintendents, staff developers. They opened up their district, and we are forever grateful because they were very generous with their time and their resources. So we capitalized on that connection with Souderton, and we invited the staff developer, Mrs. Tessa Colucci, to come in and meet with our team in July. And she came with a lot of resources and a lot of great, knowledge to share with our team. We had an outstanding turnout. These are just a couple pictures that represent that day, but the excitement in the boardroom when we had teachers and staff come out to learn about purposeful play from Tessa, it really was contagious, and we were really excited to consider that our launch. We had over 15 Council Rock teachers and staff learn about it from Tessa. She focused on the key elements, which Ann Bell is going to go a little deeper into in just a moment, but the key elements being creating active, engaging, meaningful, interactive, and joyful experiences for students. And she made it very clear to us that play is critical at the kindergarten level. And again, more about that in just a moment. She modeled lessons for our team so we could see that they were tied to standards. There were mini lessons, guided play, post-play meetings. This wasn't an opportunity and should not be an opportunity just to sit back and watch students play. Purposeful play is a little bit different. She shared examples of her structured units and resources, and again, at that point, we were just really excited about the work. We then talked and reflected, and we asked Ms. Ann Bell to take a look at this idea of purposeful play. With her background as a staff developer, we thought that she would be the perfect person to lead a team of kindergarten teachers in the planning of this work. And we have 2 teachers with us this evening, Nicole and Lauren, but we have many more who have been a part of this, and it's my pleasure to turn it over to Ann, who's going to share a little bit about purposeful play and the work that's been done so far. Ann?
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I just first want to take a few minutes to thank our school board of directors for finally making full-day kindergarten a reality. I know many of us around this table have been this close to seeing it actually come to, reality, and it finally is. So I think it's a great cause of celebration for our community, for our families, but especially for our students. So I'm really excited about that. And thank you to our central admin team for actualizing the work. And I'm really honored to be a part of it. I'm very excited to be working with a dynamic group of kindergarten educators to embark on the planning of our curricular units, which will be based in purposeful play, as Nicole talked about. And as Nicole and Tammy and the kindergarten teachers and I have been discussing the importance of play, we thought about, sometimes if you're not in the loop on what purposeful play is and all the components that Nicole mentioned, you might say, oh, that sounds really fun, or that's cute, right? And it will be fun, we guarantee you that, especially with teachers like Lauren and Nicole doing the designing with me. And anytime you're working with kindergarten students, it's undoubtedly cute. You cannot avoid that. So we guarantee those things, but it is so much more. And it is such an integral part of our full-day kindergarten work. As Nicole said, it is meaningful, it is active, it is interactive, it's social, and it's going to teach our children how to become great communicators, great collaborators, critical thinkers, creative thinkers, and it's grounded in content. So each of our purposeful play units are based in our social studies and our skills standards. So we're really excited about delving into that work. We are using the Understanding by Design framework, which is a highly regarded framework for the development of curriculum, for units, for lessons. And Understanding by Design focuses on developing true understanding in students and ensuring that students can transfer that understanding into new contexts and new situations. So that is the basis for the framework that we are using. We got a great start on the work today. We started a little bit before that, but just to kind of give you a little progress report on where we are. Our planning team has identified the themes for each of our units. We've identified the standards that will align with each of those units. We are in the process of developing assessment measures for each unit to really ensure that students are making progress towards the explicit learning goals that will be tied to each of the units. What else we covered?
You want to share the name of the first unit? Because everyone was, the team was thrilled that they had complete consensus over the first unit.
Absolutely. That was a hands down, kindergarten team knew. Kickoff one is apples and pumpkins. And again, you hear a title like that and you say, well, that sounds so much fun. It's so seasonal, it's so fall. And Nicole can speak to this a little bit more. Again, it's all of those things. But by the time we finished up this afternoon, we were talking about ways to have students identify the life cycle of living things and how might they construct a model that would reflect their understanding of an environment where apples and pumpkins could flourish. I mean, so yes, it is kindergarten appropriate, and that language will become very student friendly as we work through the unit, but it is also very sophisticated, because as I know you've seen, the Steele standards are sophisticated. And we're working together collaboratively, and it's really exciting, and we had a great time doing it. The team is extremely enthusiastic. So just a couple other things. We're gonna start with apples and pumpkins, and once that is drafted, which we anticipate being completed probably mid-October, the teachers are very excited to take some lessons, trial them in the classroom, perhaps do some co-teaching with me, with one another, and see how it goes, and get some feedback from the students, and observe the students, and watch them, engage in the play with them, bring it back to the team, and continually engage in refinement and reflection so that we can get all of these units as best as they possibly can be for all of our kindergarten students joining us at the start of the 25-26 school year.
And so although we are highlighting purposeful play this evening, it is important that we continue to keep the school board and the community updated on our work with full day kindergarten, and there is a lot of work happening and a lot of excitement around it. So our current projects, and it does go beyond these bulleted points, but I do want to highlight our curriculum planning is underway with Ms. Gary. That will consist of her connecting with curriculum coordinators and specialists to make sure that our curriculum is in place and developmentally appropriate for the start of next year. We are partnering with the Human Resources Department right now, where we have a teacher staffing survey that will be going out in the next week or two. And the purpose of that survey is so that we can find out if there are any current teachers who are interested in moving over to full day kindergarten next year. And just in passing, a couple have shared with me, as I've been in buildings at the start of the year, that they had some interest. So Mr. Spring and his team and myself, we will be looking closely at that information, and that will help us with planning and with recruitment in the months to come. We are in the process of developing a full day schedule, and we have a lot of models to take a look at, and I think that's really important to reinforce tonight, that while we are certainly making, and it is important to make full day kindergarten, our program, our own in Council Rock, it is also really important to learn from those models that are around us. So we do have many models of full day kindergarten schedules that we've looked at since we began exploring this work last February, so that has served as a great jumping off point. Similarly, we are taking a look at a screening process that would occur for incoming kindergartners upon registration or soon after, so that we can actually have an understanding of their strengths and needs before they walk through our doors. And from a principal perspective, that's something that I know our schools have wanted for a very long time, and that will help us greatly. So that is also long overdue, and the timing of implementing that with full day kindergarten is perfect. So we have asked for the IU to assist us in just getting different models from around Bucks County, because there are many districts that already have a screening process in place. So Dr. Rachel Holler is helping us with that, again, just so we can be informed as we continue with that work. So at this time, the team and myself are happy to answer any questions related to what we talked about.
Mr. Hidalgo?
To go first, thank you. Awesome. Thank you, guys. Appreciate everything. It's very exciting. I love all your enthusiasm, and you spoke well for all of us that were excited for kindergarten. Questions I have just about tonight was the purposeful play, and you said it was social studies based, right? And the Steele, so I'm looking at the Steele's standards and just trying to figure out, part of what the students have the most problems with, I believe, is math and reading, more reading than math. So I'm wondering why social studies is being chosen to be the focus when we're talking about kindergartners that really need to learn how to grade right, you know, and understand purposeful play is cool. Whatever we do with it, we're going to make it work. And so, of course, why do we do social studies? And then secondly, what data points from social studies would we be teaching the kids? Because the life cycle of a fruit might be a little complex for many, many, many kids, in my opinion. It's going to confuse some. if it's just a little. So why not just focus on the basics? But I'm ready to listen, that's kind of what I'm getting at.
Great.
I could answer
Okay.
that. So all of the 4 core subjects are getting their time. The focus for reading is going to be reading horizons and the foundational skills. So now that we're going to be full day, they're going to get more intensive time for the reading skills. We already have math as bridges, so it's getting more time but focused on developing the foundational skills and programmatic things. So as we're talking about and everything we put together, another piece is the ability to have interventions earlier. So that focus is really concentrated on the skill development. Science and social studies, if you remember back to last spring, they're actually using 3 different kits they're piloting. So like life cycle is a major thing, and looking at its weather is 2 of the kits, and how do you maintain temperatures. So there's all the steel standards phenomena basis that they're working on. So it's developmentally appropriate levels to reach those skills that they're going to have to attain. Because all of the first science for the PSSA, 4th grade this year, it's moving to 5th grade next year, it's a cumulative one. So all of these elements have to build through each other to get to that part. With social studies, and I'm speaking as a former social studies teacher, it's very significant, but there's 4 different sets of standards the students have to follow. And starting in kindergarten, you're looking at community. You're looking at as one of the units we were discussing was in October, it's fire awareness. So you look at map skills and you look at economic skills in regards to different types of jobs that are available. So the skills are there, and with social studies, they build on each other as well until you start regions in American history. So all of those through the play, it's kind of different stations within it. So there's for discovery, there's skills for writing, there's skills for investigation of different things. So there's a lot of opportunity for them to reach those skills within getting the context of creativity, within the context of critical thinking, but then specifically for English language arts reading and math, the focus is on foundational skills and if you need any interventions. So the other part that's added are the specials as well. But everything is there, it's just a different model of looking at. But with reading and math, we're that intensity and focus on those skills so that we can develop and move them ahead.
Excellent. Great answer. Thank you. It's fun to be here.
Thank you. Ms. Polly?
I want to go back to kindergarten. That's so exciting. That's so much fun. Nothing like what I experienced like growing up. But thank you so much. It's like amazing. So much progress so quickly. That's really worth noting. My only question is, we have talked about involving the community in the development of the program. How do you envision that happening? Is there a timeline? And if you have already invited people, who is going to be included?
Absolutely, and just continuing with this idea of the purposeful play, we thought that would be the first stakeholder meeting that we have. We thought that November would be a good time so that we can actually highlight something new and the work that's been done, and we'll have units done by then. So we definitely plan to have the community come in, meet with us, learn about what this is, and then also give a general overview of the work being done and get feedback. That's important to us. And again, we just thought that November would be a good amount of time for us to actually get some products produced, and certainly we'll be inviting the school board and community in. How many? We have to still discuss that, but I think we think feedback's really important, so. And we have other ideas too, Ms. Polly, in terms of communicating with the community. So there are, again, many thoughts. We have the idea of bringing a forum together or a community presentation. We have several ideas in terms of when that would happen. Off the top of my head, we talked about February, again, kind of that right after, the midpoint of the school year. We also talked about a presentation that would happen in the spring for all incoming kindergartners' parents. And it would be a voiceover so that we learn all the exciting things as we launch full day kindergarten in Council Rock. And so that's another project that we think is really important. And of course, ongoing communications that we'll have, making sure everyone is updated every step of the way. And so, we're definitely planning those pieces.
Thank you. Ms. Oseki?
Not a question so much as just a comment. First of all, like a really dynamite team we have here. The two best kindergarten teachers that my children have had. My two children have had here.
They are great.
So when we first started talking about full day kindergarten, my main concern, and at that time I was a parent of a kindergartner, was that it's a long day. And so, I was an advocate of the incorporation of play from the beginning, and I am so thrilled to hear about really an excellent plan to incorporate hands-on learning. I think that's so important. And the other thing, when I was listening to you, is these kids, these kindergartners, they're really curious. And it seems like you have taken that curiosity and you're really not only encouraging that, but building on it and using that as a jumping off point for learning. And it couldn't be any better. I'm so thrilled. So thank you.
Any other questions or comments? I guess I will just kind of piggybacking off of Mr. Hidalgo's question. You had a great response, and Ms. Oseki, I know, when we started this exploration of full day kindergarten back last February, some of the concerns we had from community members and fellow colleagues were the long school day. They go from a 2.5 hour, my kindergarten might be tired, too strenuous, and I think this is perfect, an excellent way to learn and play, right? That gives them that opportunity to develop, become critical thinkers. And I know Mr. Hidalgo's, concerned about the curriculum that currently exists in our 2.5 hour program, which is just expanding, right? You have more time to implement your reading curriculum to its, in terms of fidelity, right? The math curriculum, same thing. You can do the numbers corner and do the curriculum and whatever lessons and not have to pick. I love that through this purposeful play that you're able to bring in science and social studies, which is so important, not as they develop into lifelong learners, but things like social skills, language development, the opportunity to work collaboratively and explore and, within teams, and then bring it all back to you. I think it's truly wonderful, and I'm very excited, if you can tell, along with you all, and look forward to following you in this process along with the community. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. And Nicole and Lauren, real quick, because you did come out tonight, and I would like to just give you an opportunity, because when we were preparing for this evening's meeting, I did share that it may be, you may have an opportunity to share, what you're most excited about related to full day kindergarten in general from a kindergarten teacher's perspective. So if you could just take a minute. I think it might be nice for the school board and the community at home, anyone that's here or listening, to hear your perspective.
So I just wanted to say, good evening, everyone. My name is Nicole Whiteley. I am the kindergarten teacher at Rolling Hills Elementary School. And as you can see, we are really excited, just like everyone here at the table. Only a few hours ago, Ann and I were sitting at this table and we started writing the curriculum for Purposeful Play. And it makes me so excited that I want next school year to be here already. I'm ready to do the apples and the pumpkins unit. So thank you to all of you. Every time the kindergarten teachers meet, you can just see the excitement on all of our faces. So we're really, really excited.
Yes, we are. Good evening, everyone. It's great to see all of you again. I know I've been popping up here and there with full day kindergarten. So again, thank you for your support, your encouragement, and your openness to listen to our ideas. And we love hearing your feedback too. It's so valuable. And just thank you for the great discussion tonight and in previous meetings as well. I echo everything that Nicole said. Just we're so excited for next year. I mean, the work that's going into this, the collaboration, when we met a few times over the summer, and Anne had mentioned, we have a really
great kindergarten team here in Council Rock. Just wonderful teachers who are so passionate about this age group, and just this expansion of time that we now have is just wonderful. So we're so excited to put our heads down, get to work, and listen to feedback and do what's best for our students to prepare them for their elementary school career and beyond. Something that I was really interested in learning more about when we had met with Tessa from Souderton, who was an extraordinary resource, just one of the best professional development workshops that I've ever been in. But she modeled a lesson for us, and she opened it by reading a book. And it just captivated all of us. And that's something, we do all the time as educators, but when you're being read to, there's just something about it that just kind of melted you. You were really engaged. She was reading about the pond. And then we just had the opportunity to go into all of these different stations, as she taught us. The stations, not centers, so we're learning new vocabulary. And we learned things through the book, and we were putting them into process and into play in the stations. So she really let us get immersed in the unit, and I just can't wait to flip the switch and be able to do that, for our students. So I'm looking forward to, incorporating literature, Mr. Hidalgo, to answer your point about reading. Literature is going to be an important part of our units as well, fiction, nonfiction. So I'm interested in just exploring that and, tapping in all of our resources and making some really good units. So thank you. Thank you.
Oh, Mr. Hidalgo?
I wanted to follow up, please, thank you. Yeah, literature, we need phonics, we need to identify the words, not read the books, vowel sounds and stuff like that. I'm looking at STEELS, and STEELS is basically more science-based, it's science, technology, engineering, environmental literacy, and sustainability. And when I look at the standards, they are mentioning, life cycles and weather and stuff like that. I don't see how, where the social studies comes into it, or the early American history, and what exactly are we teaching them about early American history, is your idea.
Early American history comes later. So in the beginning grades, how social studies used to be taught it was called the concentric model, where you start with the identification from the student outward. So you look at the family, the community is the neighborhood is the county, and then the state. But then as the state switched it a few years back, you have economics, you have civics, you have geography, and you have government to look at. So with pulling those things in, the places where social studies becomes learning about the community. So one of the things we talked about with them is October is always Fire Awareness Month. So knowing firefighters, police, EMT, part of the community that they work there, what those jobs are, and then it ties in with career indicators. They don't technically count until third grade, but the standards are there for kindergarten, first, second, third grade. So social studies is looking at the development of the economic piece, looking at how you put things together with the social organization, the following of rules, because rules turns into the government aspect in civics. So all those different strands are all present, but the integration of it within the language arts, within science, they overlap a great deal in those first 3 years.
So I was just saying, because in kindergarten, we were based on the STEELS and social studies, but it's not, that was a choice that we're making.
Right, in most of the elementary grades, they flip-flop. So they'll do the first 6 weeks will be social studies, then the next 6 weeks will be science, then it'll be social studies, then it'll be science. So as they're creating the different areas, they're going to be flip-flopping kind of back and forth. So they mentioned the pond was one. So with the pond, they're looking at life cycles and what the environment is like around it. And then they could switch to looking at something in regards to the community and looking at what the jobs are. So they'll go back and forth between the subject area. It's not all integrated together.
Sure, but if I understand then, so the social studies, we're giving it now, but it's more building for the future. It's not really part of the standards for
In Pennsylvania, for Chapter 4 guidelines, the 4 core areas, so the ELA, Math, Science, and Social Studies, you have the progression from kindergarten all the way through 12th grade. So it's just the younger grades. People think that it doesn't exist there. It is, but it's integrated into what you do. Until you get really 3rd grade starts to separate out, but as you're talking about report card and curriculum, the way the standards are written, English language arts and social studies go a lot. So when you're reading in English, your content could be the social study.
Great,
So they
because
go
it's going to
together.
be so critical. I'm very, very much looking forward to seeing how this develops, because this is very critical.
Mhm.
This is the most critical point in the kids' education when they first start. So thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Okay. At this time, I would like to ask Mrs. Jennifer Petrocola, our literacy specialist at Churchville Elementary, to come up, and Mrs. Lisa Jackson, 5th grade teacher at Churchville Elementary, to come up for our next portion of our presentation. And we are going to be providing an update on the revision to the elementary report card. I brought up this topic previously, but we're here to provide an update. I do want to point out that along with myself and Ms. Gary, we have Mrs. Petrocola and Mrs. Jackson, who have been a very integral part of our planning team for the revision of the report card. They are 2 lead team members from last year. And I hope that they were excited that they ended up working on this project. It was a lot to bite off, but I'm so proud of their work, and also it's really important to highlight the work of our report card committee, the many teachers and staff who have been a part of that process, and administrators. So we actually began this work last January as a smaller planning team, and then we expanded to the committee starting in April. We decided that with the amount of work that needed to be done to the report card, it's important to point out it has not been revised since 2010. And I know that for a fact because I was a part of leading that work in 2010 with Mrs. Rebecca Grimm, the former Richboro Elementary School principal. So it was long overdue, and we've all been wanting to do this work for many, many years. So we've quickly realized it had to be broken up into 2 different phases, 2 different years. Last year, we focused on the revision of the language and refining it for more clarity and consistency. We focused on condensing the priority standards so that we could align those standards to our new programs, because a lot has happened in the last few years. We have a new math program, relatively speaking, and of course, you know, we have our 2 new ELA programs. We, as a committee, revisited and updated indicators used for grading. The formatting we felt was outdated. There was a lot of information on the actual document that we did not feel was needed anymore. That real estate on a report card is really important, and so we spent a long time talking about that as a committee as well. So we feel the new look is very streamlined. We added on an overall average grade for 6th grade only. Again, this is an ask that has been coming from both parents and teachers for many, many years. And so we'll talk a little bit more about that in just a minute. And also, before I turn it over to Tammy, we did a lot of work as a committee on the scope and sequence and aligning our assessments to the document. And so, Tammy, do you want to speak to that?
Sure. So it's not just about the report card, and we wanted to start really with that as the focus. So in our area, we have curriculum, instruction, assessment, and technology, and they all fit together. And when you create these structures, we want to make sure that integration is seamless. So we had to set up a lot of, I call it the back work, in order to get to the report card. So in the curriculum sense, what we did, and this process involved the 4 core reading, math, science, and social studies, because the elementary teacher teaches all of those areas. So what we started with them last spring was to create documents of scope and sequence. So the scope and sequence takes programs that we have, like Reading Horizons and Wonders, and Bridges that are research-based. So you're really following almost scripted programs for everything to get the results that you want. And then in science and social studies, the coordination of all of the different resources and materials. So for each grade starting in kindergarten, we created this structure that has, it's hard to see up there too because it ends up, the print is very small and you can't see everything. So we went and counted the days, we have the marking periods, we have the dates for everything, and then we set up for every subject that the classroom teacher would have where they should be in general in the times. The other thing we did is align it to assessments. So our district assessments, state assessments, because what this product, we want to ensure across all 10 elementary schools that there's equity. So no matter what school you're at that time of year, you should be following and every student is receiving a common curriculum. So that then we could look at our results. But this was for each different grade level, they did this. The other thing we worked on is to get consistency. So we put a lot of links in it to make sure everybody is at the right place and they're using the right materials, especially with ELA. They have tons of materials so that we're all using the same assessments, we're using the same materials, so that, again, it's consistent. So having the information in one place is another thing that we're working on. We're using shared drives right now so the teachers can access whatever they need. But with all this change happening, we're trying to make things efficient for the teachers, that they don't have to go spend time to look at things. So the curriculum is the one piece that then ties into our assessment. And assessment is critical because that's the evidence to show our learning. And if the students aren't learning, it leads into other areas to enhance their learning. So what we did at each level to start off with, and when the website is up and working, we're gonna have all these posted. We have the district assessment calendar. So we have the elementary, middle, and high school. That includes the district level and state level assessments. So not unit level things, but the things we look at together. So these will be posted then so everyone can see when those are taking place. And again, it's the consistency. We also made a planning calendar because we're really trying to focus on making sure that everybody is looking at the big picture and that everybody begins the same, middle, and ends the same. So I didn't bring a copy of that, but it was, the teachers really, really enjoyed it. A month-by-month calendar with just different testing dates. For example, when they're doing dibbles, the Acadians, when they're doing their data meetings, when we have off from school, so they can really plan down to the day. And in working with that, when I say in putting this information together, the level of collaboration that they went through was tremendous. So all of the teachers across the district in a grade level are communicating with each other. So with the curriculum, and we had the assessment, the big assessments, we had to look at also the technology and more of the assessments and how they lead to the report card. So Jen and Lisa did an amazing job with this as well. We created documents for each grade level to have what the descriptor on the report card would be, and as Nicole mentioned, taking the priority standards and kind of shortening them down. And then in the middle piece here is what we put are what assessments they're using with links so that they could, again, go right to them, and making sure that our assessments are now, almost question by question, being aligned to standards because it's a standards-based report card, so we figured out the grading with it. So these different things, when you look at them again for each grade did them, but you can see at the top, there's like 7 or 8 teachers that were involved in this over the summer and putting it together, and these are still works in progress. We said with these documents as we gave them out at the beginning of the school year, and we met with each grade level and we had conversations about it, is take notes on everything because these are going to be constantly refined. So at the end of the first quarter, as we finish up the report card, then the teachers are going to be meeting to say, this was strong, this needs to change, this looks good, our results for this wasn't too good, maybe we need more time with that. And then also clarifying with this to make sure we purchased the data warehouse Linkit. So we've been doing a lot of work with Linkit to have all of the data there for the teachers to access, and then getting the assessments put there. So again, it's efficient, it gets the data, it gets the bubble sheets or if they did many different ways for them to have their assessments in there. But then it all ties to what you see on the report card. So the back side of the work that went into it, just to have that kind of thought process. It's not just, one piece of paper or one online thing that has scores. There is a ton of work that went into the alignment of all of those different educational programming pieces.
Which we totally didn't realize when we signed up.
But they did a great job.
I also want to acknowledge Miss Emily Otero, who's not presenting this evening, but she's here to support her team in Churchville. But she's also a part of our report card committee as our administrator representative. So thank you, Emily, for your contributions. So parent feedback is really important to us. We had a meeting recently with parents that represented a wide range of grade levels. We shared the work that had been done so far. We also shared about the changes, and we received some really good feedback that we're going to bring back. It was Ms. Gary and I that will be bringing back to the committee. And we actually have our next parent feedback meeting scheduled for later in October. So we're looking forward to that. And then as part of the work that Lisa and Jen did, they created a teacher training that we shared with all staff at their beginning of the year faculty meeting in August. It was really important to us that we had a consistent message sent to all teachers because, again, after 14 years of a document, there are a lot of changes, and we wanted to make sure that we lessened as much confusion as possible when you're working through a lot of different changes. So we are just going to share about 6.5 minutes of that presentation right now so you can see what the teachers and staff saw as a part of that training. And also we highlighted the portion of the presentation that we think would be most important for the school board and the community to hear, which related to some bigger changes that we made to the document. So at this time, we're going to move towards that. I'm going to pass this to Jen.
Try pointing it this way with the computers.
Thank you so much.
It's important to acknowledge that some of the changes that also came from a lot of different important stakeholders being a part of those discussions. So Mr. Devlin, Dr. Black, and other members of the special services team are also a part of those discussions as well. So phase 2, as we just highlighted, is going to be beginning this year. And the topic of trimesters is not a new one. That is something that as a committee we'll be exploring. And there are a lot of great ideas, and there are also some very good, there's good work that's already been done in surrounding districts that we need to take the time to explore further. So we will be doing that as a committee and keeping the community updated on what we learn. And then streamlining the organization of the information. So again, looking at the format of the report card. So again, thank you for the team for coming tonight, and we're happy to answer any questions you may have.
Questions, comments?
Who did the voiceover?
She was down the shore, so it sounded very calming. If she can only do it again if she's at the beach.
I was watching the sunset across the bay, so just very zen in the moment.
Mr. Hickey?
It's funny when you just see elementary report card revision, you're thinking of what you're looking at on a piece of paper. I was really impressed with like the work that you're doing behind the scenes. I was really glad to hear, like you said, you're aligning the report cards now to what we're actually teaching in the schools, since we have changed a lot of programs in recent years. So like you said, good luck, and hopefully keep up that good work and going. Just a couple questions that I had was two things. When you talk about this comment bank, what's the genesis of that? Like where did that come from? Who made up the comments?
I think that, okay, I think that came through, we did a staff-wide survey for likes and dislikes, pros and cons of the former report card and where teachers would like to see it go. And we have really been trying to hit home the whole process of being equitable and actionable and data-driven based on MTSS. So with that being said, a lot of the teachers wanted to get away from that narrative, that subjective comment. So what we did was we started with a list that was already in our report card program, and we printed all of them out. And in our committee meetings, we had broken down by grade level appropriate comments based on each standard. So when you go to our comment banks, there's green, which means their strengths, and the reds for growth. So when we talk about how many comments to give, 2 glows in a grow, we like to say, or 2 places where they're strong, 1 where they could show some growth. And we chose comments that were appropriate and could be conveyed using the data as well, so that we have the data to back up what we're saying. And also to give the parents some kind of actionable, like, if this is a growth, necessary growth, that here's what we're going to do to handle it. So teachers in each grade level on the report card committee came up with the comments that are available and grade level appropriate.
So they're generated within the Council Rock community as opposed to being outside.
Authored by our teachers.
Yes. Great.
And by our supervisors and experts.
Perfect. And then my other question is just, I know this is still being explored, but what, is there an advantage to a trimester as opposed to
Yes.
Yes.
Well,
good answer.
you can probably do this a little bit more in depth than myself, but surrounding districts who are performing highly on state assessments are proponents generally because of the shift in the assessment calendar and the key points within the school year where parents are able to speak to, teachers are able to speak to parents and talk about interventions that are in place, actionable steps, and then following through with that data that we get. So it's really a timeline piece, not necessarily that reduction in reporting to parents.
I think too, you get within that first trimester especially, you have a better knowledge of your student. It aligns more with our new programs, like our science and social studies programs, our 6 weeks rotations. So if you have a 12-week trimester, you're able to get both rotations of science and social studies within those 12 weeks. You also have more information that you can share with the parents at report card conferences. It could also give a possibility to a second conference in the spring, which again, it's that sharing of communication so that as we partner with the parents for their child, they're able to get more data-driven discussion and communication so that they know more where their child stands.
Mr. Hickey, many of the school districts that we have just very briefly taken the time to explore thus far have that second spring conference when they move to trimesters. I know where my sons go, that's how it works as well. Trimesters, but you have the second conference in the spring, which is nice from a parent perspective.
And this is strictly at the K to 6?
Yes.
Thanks.
Again, exploration. We still have a lot to learn.
Stone?
I love the comment banks. I think seems really helpful to teachers to get through that difficult part of expressing how that child is doing. Will they also have the ability though to add their own personal comments?
Yes.
So they did a great job on the science project or whatever.
As a committee, and I know Mrs. Crawford was very vocal about this as well. As elementary teachers, we don't want to lose that connection. So we don't want to do that either. We want to give the teachers the ability to do that, right? To still feel like elementary teachers. Yeah.
But the word that stands out in that presentation is actionable. We want to make sure a parent, and again, the feedback we received from our recent parent group, Tammy and myself, they said they like the comment bank feature as well because they like the idea of it being actionable. They have a plan that they see in writing that's going to happen in terms of next steps.
Thank you. Ms. Osaki?
I have a couple of, thank you, great job. I have a couple questions. The first one is, would there be an opportunity to have a second conference in the spring? So it sounds like we're on the same page. And then going through this, and I understand aligning the rubric to the, directly to the courses that are being taught. I wondered, one thing that we hear kind of a lot is, are the teachers following the different curriculums with fidelity? And so is the thought that having this report card will not only allow for better evaluation of the students, but also encourage teachers to follow the curriculums with more fidelity?
We had a lot of conversation about that because, as you know, I'm new to the district. and looking to see how everything's put together, trying to align all the curricular pieces. So with the new program, it's always a little lax to allow people the comfort level to try things out. They said, like, that has to stop then. Like, it's okay to explore, but then we have to set the pace to make sure all the standards are being met. So we keep referring to the data and the assessments. We do a lot of beginning of year, middle of year, end of year. And if you're not on the same pace, that data is going to be skewed because you only got through so many lessons. So we really tried to take a look at that to ensure there's some flexibility to allow for reteaching, to allow, the creative part to come in as needed, but to say whatever school you're in, that every student is receiving the same things. The area of discussion that came up the most, so the ELA they're very scripted programs for both Reading Horizons and Wonders. For Bridges, the math, it's also the very same way, and those assessments align to the pieces. Science and social studies are a little different, so every grade level had little tweaks to how that would look. Science, because it's that cumulative leading up to the PSSA, so you had to make sure, and this was a kind of like negotiating back and forth with the teachers and the schools and field trips and everything, but which came first? Is it science or is it social studies? And so that piece, I say, is still in progress. And the pilot with departmentalization for 6th grade also kind of to Just getting that consistency with everything. So that will allow us now to ensure that when we look at the data, the students have had that same background and not at different places. So it all ties together.
But I think the documents that you put together and the pacing guides and the assessment guidelines, I think that definitely helps us see the big picture and understand that where we need to be at each time of the year.
Great. My last question was kind of addressed in the video, but if you don't mind taking just a minute or two to explain, because I'm not familiar with it, how the report card works for special ed and what's changing.
Well, I think the piece that they addressed in here was the former report card on the front of it used to have a list of if you have a 504, if you have right on the front of it. And the discussion that was had was, if you have an IEP, you're having those discussions and you're receiving those documents. And the privacy issue of, I know as sad as it might sound as a parent, if you're taking it to get a free Sunday or something like that and you're giving it to an employee and they're seeing that information, the grading for the students and everything like that is part of their specially designed instruction for that, but it's still held to the level of the standards. So that's a kind of separate conversation as to how those two fit together, but it should be indicative of the report card itself to show the progress they're making. And then that conversation within the IEP meeting and the understanding of what's taking place with any accommodations or modifications. The second part of that was what was called the accommodations checklist, which was a list of different things a teacher might do instructionally. And when we looked at it, it was really best practices, which are an expectation that they're being done. So we had a lot of conversation with that. The teachers did say that they liked to have that data put together so the next teacher could look back to say, oh, these are some things that helped, or how can we look at? Because when we provide supports, it's to get them to the instructional level. So those are meant to go away. But as they mentioned, universal design for learning is you offer it to all students in their different types of learning. So that now will be housed in Linkit, that data management system, so the teachers have the ability to go back and look. And that is part of the MTSS system that we have, the intervention manager, so that they're able to see when they have their problem-solving meetings with individual students, they could really get that whole look at the student data of the whole child to see what was in the past and what they could use for the future.
Thank you.
Yeah. Mr. Roosevelt.
Thank you. That presentation was very helpful to help us explore what the work that you've all been doing, which I think is very helpful in revealing. I have a couple different questions, and I think I'll just limit some of them. But it's always helpful to understand what the problem is, at least for me, and then figure out what is the intended goal. Did we reach the goal? And how are we going to measure our success? So there were a couple of comments that came up in the presentation as far as this is where the teachers wanted it to go. But I was eagerly waiting for an answer of where did the teachers want it to go. The next thing I was thinking about is I was like Mr. Hickey thinking about this could mean so many things. So the presentation was really helpful to kind of narrow this down where it is going. Initially, am I correct in saying that part of the problem was the grading didn't align with the education? That's clear, right?
Correct.
Another problem was the teachers were taking a long time, or longer than they wanted, to do a grading of individual students, and now because of the word bank, we can just grab paragraphs that are pre-written to describe the student and put it in? Is that what's happening?
It was not because it never came up that teachers, it was a timing piece to it. It wasn't about that. It was about making sure that the actual comments were helpful, productive, actionable, aligned with our MTSS work. It's almost like we had an outdated look of what a comment should be. To the point that we heard earlier, or the question, we will still have a personal touch for those comments. That's really important, but it's also important that we're giving parents important information and helpful information to show and reflect what we're doing in school so that we're actionable continues to come up.
But the result is still, teachers are grabbing pre-written paragraphs and putting it into the applicable spot to describe the metric for which the grade or the comment is, correct? Because we've got a word bank, right?
There are comments for each subject, for each standard.
Right.
And it's a sentence.
Right.
So we can, if we're looking for a specific comment, that can show equitable and actionable comment to a parent so that they know what we're doing for their child. We can go into the bank for that grade level and pull a sentence that would have just that for that specific skill. So that it really
we are
is.
grabbing pre-written statements to put in to describe what the teacher wants the parent to understand.
Yes, if it applies and it aligns to the standards.
Sure, no, right.
There are many parents in the feedback that we received that actually said that they didn't find the comments previously perhaps helpful.
Mhm.
Looking at some samples we provided them, they felt that it was helpful and clear. So that's, to answer your question, that's the ultimate goal of this. Not to make it less personal, but to make it more helpful to the parent. And certainly, I think it's important to point out, there was more to that presentation that we cut off because of time, but the last part of it was about we're learning and growing through this process, and we'll continue to take feedback in, and we'll continue as a committee to make any necessary revisions. So we're gonna have to walk through Q1 and see what kind of feedback we get from parents and teachers and staff, and then we'll continue to keep you updated.
Okay, so the other element here is this easier for the parent to digest and understand what work they're looking to do because it's actionable now. I think it's more organized. It appears as if it was more organized.
That's the goal.
Right, so it's more organized and directly related, but they're picking these comments so that if the comment applies for a bunch of students in the class, those parents are gonna get the same comment for the same thing that it's applicable to, because they've grabbed the sentence. If it doesn't, they're gonna get different ones.
Right.
So everybody's gonna get a different, I don't know, since it's Halloween, a different assortment of candy from the candy aisle, right? But we're grabbing Kit Kats and Snickers and Skittles and whatnot, but different people may get different ones. That's, all right, so what is the ultimate goal for all of this? Where do the teachers want this to go? And how are we going to evaluate success, whether this new program works?
We as a committee, and we represent the teachers as well, we want to make sure that the document that they're completing for parents serves the appropriate purpose. Is it helpful? Is it informative? Does it give you a better snapshot of what your child, how your child is performing, strengths and needs? And again, the purpose of a report card, and we've said this many times as a committee steering team, the purpose of the report card is not to give micro-level data and real intricate information.
Right.
It is a snapshot, it's useful information related to strengths and needs. And so taking that vision and moving it forward, we believe this will be more streamlined. We hope that it's more helpful for parents, and we hope that the feedback to measure how we're going to adjust accordingly, we hope the feedback's positive. And so that's work that the committee still has to do after it goes out first marking period. And of course, then after that, we have our primary students, parents. We're gonna need to get that feedback.
So what I'm hearing is if the strength and the needs of the student increase and decrease appropriately, then you'll be able to determine that this was successful. Correct?
I think we're looking if the parents, they provide feedback and they say to us this was helpful,
Okay.
and that we can take a look at the comments, how the student does moving forward. I think that's work that the committee will do, because we're going to bring them back in to say, let us know what happened after the first marking period. How did the student's performance change? And how was that reflected in the comments? We recognize the comment bank is a shift, so we welcome the feedback, but it's one that we think is going to have to be shaped a bit as we move forward.
I'm not against the comment.
Oh,
I'm trying
recognize
to understand what the ultimate goal is. Where do the teachers want this to go? And how will you as a group determine whether this new method is productive in helping teachers communicate to the parents, helping students develop their strengths and decrease what they need, their needs, right? That's what I'm gathering from that, is that correct?
Yes.
So I think that's where my question is. how will you do that? Where do the teachers want it to go, and how will you determine whether this new system is working and where the tweaks need to apply?
I think that if we refer back to the presentation, the three terms we used was equitable, action, right,
Yeah.
and.
I'm more interested in the.
Oh, I understand. But what I think the teachers are looking for from the survey that we've taken was that we have someplace to go for that, so that we're all using the same language. So it's important, we teach students with so many different needs in every classroom. So it's important that we are able to use the same language to convey to our parents what we're doing in the classroom. As a team, as a faculty, as a staff, we're using that same common language across the district. So if you refer back to the presentation with the two different comments, what if those two kids were siblings?
Right, well, yeah.
And that's not equitable. And there's a lot of information on one, which might help the parent, it might not, it might overwhelm the parent. So with the comment banks, we're simply making it a common language where we can all go and use the same tool.
So is that where the teachers wanted to go? They wanted a common bank of language?
That was the one of the
discuss?
requests, yeah. So, and I think too, it's important for us to mention that when we started this whole project, it was a redesign. It was just updating the language, and it kind of took on a life of itself once we put it out there to the staff of how many different things we saw we needed to look at. This was only supposed to be a phase one. And we realized that because it's been so long since it's been updated, we really needed to take a longer look at it. So we want to make sure that our finished product is exactly what Council Rock needs and exactly in the wording that it needs to be worded in. So that the parents are getting the information they need and making sure that the students are getting the best education they can.
My final concern is similar to Subseki's, was regarding to special education. Because if we're using this word bank, and I understand completely, and I'm not in disagreement that you're pulling out the IEP information from this, it's still important. How are we going to maintain that when that teacher is conducting that grade and performing that evaluation, looking at all this information, how it connects, that they're still keeping in mind what the IEP 504s were, which is now pulled away from it? How do you
It's not pulled away
keep
from
those
it.
combined?
An IEP, a student with an IEP, every marking period gets a separate progress report from the special education teacher.
I'm aware of that.
So that is never in the comment bank.
Right.
It's always just a standard sentence that we put in. So all of that information comes from a separate progress report and communication with the special education teacher. So simply because we've taken away what really is a privacy thing, and we felt very strongly about that putting that out there, that this student has special needs or this student has a medical.
I completely
we don't want to have
understand.
that.
I understand all
So it's not removed, it's just housed differently. That makes sense.
We'll have to see how it goes, and perhaps we're speaking different languages, but I guess we'll find if results come up. I'm just concerned that the families with kids with 504s and IEPs, making sure that they have consistent and actionable and understandable, relatable information, not two sides of the same coin.
Understood. That's helpful, and we'll continue to partner with the Special Services Department and make sure that the revisions that we make align with that. So thank you.
Ms. Polly?
Yeah, great work. I think you've done a lot of progress. It looks really good. Actually, I have two things. One is for the comments. Just as my input as a parent, when I was reviewing like the comments for my children, sometimes I had this like little thing, and sometimes it was such a long paragraph that I did have to go through everything to figure out exactly what was going on. And it was for like so many different subjects. So it's like I had to like study the report, but I wish there was like a middle, somewhere in the middle where you have the sentences that are like the way you would like them to be, but then there is something more personal. Because I want to know how my kid did, in that exam, and, you know, it needs help with like phonics or like something else. So I wish there was a middle ground.
Yes, Ms. Polly, we agree, and I want to reinforce that that is something that teachers have heard directly from the committee and will reinforce before the report cards are sent out again, that we don't want to lose the personal touch. That's really important. As a parent myself, I would always look to see, oh, how is he, as a friend, and, we'll continue to reinforce that that is really important. I think in the meetings we talked about to start and to end, so we're giving that direction, so thanks for that feedback.
No, thank you. So my other point is, you said you received feedback from parents in this. Okay, I just want to make sure we include the parents for like the special education and people that have, different needs. When you formulate the report, just make sure that we include everybody in this process. So we hear everybody's voices and we create something that everybody will be happy with.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, I guess I'll just kind of summary. Thank you all, by the way. I think what even those of us here are trying to understand, those at home that may listen currently or into the future, is we talk about a report card revision, but there's so much more that went into this, understanding from the educator's perspective, you have aligning our report card to our curriculum. That's a no-brainer and that's amazing. I hear the scope and sequence, and for those that don't understand that, it's almost like a timeline for teachers. And within these little boxes, the timeline of like indicators of where they need to be throughout the school year based upon, progression and assessments coming up, whether it's for the district, for the curriculum, or for the state. And in that little box, I know you can fit a lot of resources for teachers where they're not having to go through their bookshelves and bags to find all the different resources. They can say, it's this teacher's guide, it's this page, it's this link, it's this website, it's this slide, whatever it is, it's literally at their fingertips. So that's less time that they're digging for those things and more time that they're teaching. The other thing that I was really happy about, one of the first things when I had a discussion, I remember with Ms. Crawford as a teacher or as a parent, one of the first things I did was go look at comments, right? When you get a report card, I look at that, then I go back and look at the other. And there's a lot of the report card throughout my 5 years where, skills and words were there. It was never even relevant to my child at that time. It was either not assessed, not part of the curriculum. So a lot, like you said, just taking away things that didn't need to, real estate on a report card on that one sheet of paper, front and back. In terms of trimesters, my first question was, even before I heard trimesters, was, as a parent, we get to see teachers once, face to face. I know teachers are more than welcome to, or parents are more than welcome to request a meeting, but I know many parents like myself, teachers are busy and parents are busy, and I don't necessarily myself didn't feel like I want to reach out to a teacher and request a special meeting. So the fact that in this trimester move, it allows an opportunity to give parents a second opportunity where it's been more than 4 weeks of school before teachers have to start inputting report card comments and grades. And by the way, by the time second report card comes, you have the holidays in there, you have classroom parties, whatever else that happens, and then you have basically like another 4 weeks. So parents aren't really getting like the information. It seems too chopped up, and I know as teachers, you don't have a whole lot to go from semester 1 to semester 2. So a second opportunity for a conference later in the spring, I think would be really meaningful for parents. And I thank you. And is it fair to say that phase 1 is kind of still a bit of a working document or a living document?
Yes.
Okay.
There was a great slide at the end, like
Yes,
I said.
okay.
Really good visual that said we're still growing,
Okay.
so for time, we cut
Okay.
that.
Just,
But
we had a lot of
yes, that's
discussion
really
about
important.
that. Great.
Really important point.
Great.
Thank you for the feedback.
Thank you.
I think if we can close by saying our ultimate goal, where do teachers want to go with this? We want an effective communication tool for parents. We want it to be clear, we want it to be relevant, Yes, we absolutely want it to be actionable. We want to be reporting to parents clearly what their children have mastered and what we're still working towards. And if they're not achieving those points of mastery, what is our plan from there? So ultimately, every member of the committee is looking to create that effective and clear communication tool. It has inspired a lot of, or I should say it has made us aware of a lot of other elements that needed to be really fine-tuned and building that need for consistency in terms of instruction, pacing, assessment, and communication. And so this entire process has evolved into a much larger project, but it's absolutely an ongoing piece. And ultimately, the committee is looking for feedback from teachers as we're going through these new pacing guides, assessment and scoring guides, using the report card as that communication tool, and also looking to feedback from parents and stakeholders. So Ms. Crawford mentioned another meeting with parents. If you would like to join that group, we fully support that. We, in fact, appreciate it. We appreciate that feedback, and if you are giving that information as well to your children's teachers, it is so valuable to us because we need that communication piece for you. As essentially service providers for our community, that's what we want. We owe our students this level of education, and we owe it to them to make sure that they are mastering what we are setting out to teach. And we're hoping that the report card is that tool to share our effectiveness in achieving that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Very good.
everyone.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. So first I would like to present on the 23-24 school year ESY program. This year we had about 430 students take advantage of our extended school year. This program is a program to support our students who are classified special education. Each year at the annual IEP, there's a determination whether or not a child is in need of ESY services based on different factors such as regression, recoupment, mastery of skills, skills maintenance, or if there's a severe issue that the child hasn't been coming to school, regularly. We do have a population of students with intellectual disability and so forth that are called the Armstrong group, and these families at the IEP meeting will be notified by February 28th if their child and the IEP team makes that determination if the child's eligible for ESY services. But it could be any child, depending on the IEP team, can be eligible for services. This year, our locations were at Hillcrest Elementary School, Council Rock North High School, and the Achieve Center. So it was a 5-week program ending the first week of August. So depending on the child's needs, they would be in school for full days, 4 full days, or they could be in school for 1 day or maybe a half a day depending on their needs. Some students came again 4 days, some came every other day. And we did have some students who were not center-based. So we did have some instruction in the home, and we had some other types of instruction just to make sure we meet the needs or met the needs of these students. In terms of progress, that was each child is provided a summary of progress of the report just to make sure where their goals are and how they're meeting those goals in terms of the IEP. So that's pretty much what we have for our ESY program. I want to just give a shout out to the supervisors and definitely to our transportation department. It went off without a hitch. Families were happy. Children attended. The teachers were amazing. The support staff was amazing. I just want to thank the community at large for allowing the children to take advantage of it, but really I can't say enough to the teachers, the staff, and the bus drivers to make it all happen. Secondly, I would like to address the Special Education Plan Committee. So we're going to have a special education plan that is due to be submitted to the state by May 1st of 2025. So that means we have some work to do. Our initial planning meeting is scheduled for October 29th at 7 p.m. Yesterday, I sent out just an all-call again, asking for some volunteers for the committee, the CPAC committee, to develop the special education plan. So we have about 68, maybe 70 volunteers. I sent confirmation emails today to each one of those volunteers, just announcing that the planned meeting will be October 29th, 7 p.m., Council Rock South High School. We will be supported by the Bucks County Intermediate Unit, representatives from Patton, who will help us work on this plan to address our special education programming for the next 3 years. So we'll have our meeting again, it's October 29th. We'll have about 5 monthly meetings. We need to make sure that the special education plan is reviewed with this team so we can have a 28-day review prior to board approval in April. So then it can be submitted May 1st. Next question, it's the next slide for... Finally, I'd like to address, we had some special education initiatives and some updates. So all summer, I have been working with the Department of Bureau of Special Education, Patton, and the Bucks County IU in response to the meeting that we had in April this past year. And it was, we met probably every other week, and Patton crew is going to help us with some initiatives. And 3 of these initiatives are structured literacy, inclusive practices / universal designs for learning, and the special education plan, which I mentioned before. So if I can first talk about the inclusive practices. Dr. Clancy really is dedicated to inclusive practices in the whole state. And she wants to ensure that we make sure that our children are included as much as we possibly can. So she is going to help us fund a program called Michaela's Voice. More information can be found on the website where Michaela's Voice is. And Michaela's Voice is a program that teaches young people that everybody is valuable, everybody can be competent, everybody has a reason to be in the regular school. And they do this through different assemblies, reading programs, and an art project. And this is based on a little girl named Michaela from Nazareth area middle school one time. And her classmates wanted to have her feel like she was really an integral part of the class and in the art project. So what they did is they put paint, acrylic paint on her wheelchair wheels, and she rolled across the canvas, and then the kids painted the canvas, and they made a big celebration about it. And that's what we're looking to do, something similar here in 4 of our buildings. So we have selected Holland Elementary School, Richboro Elementary School, Newtown Elementary School, and one more building, Goodnoe Elementary School. So what this is we're going to have Michaela's Voice come out sometime starting in October, just to develop these programs. And I was really clear with the leader, Sharon, about that. She said, typically what we do is we have about 13 kids from the general education and some kids from the special education get together. I said, this is about inclusivity, and it's not 13 or 13 leaders, it's everybody. So whatever you're doing, every child needs to be involved. So I put it at them. I said, look, even if it's a canvas where every child gets to make a brushstroke, everybody is being involved in this practice, in this program, and so forth. So that's just one thing that we're doing for inclusive practices. Another thing you mentioned a couple times for our report card update, universal design for learning. And this is something, especially special educators, we take seriously, because every child has needs in the classroom, and not just special education children. We all know what it's like to go to school. It's a roller coaster. Sometimes we're stronger or have more abilities with one thing in the math while we don't in another area of math. And so what we're trying to do is we're going out there and we're providing just real quick professional development at the elementary schools and every department at the secondary levels to talk about universal design for learning and specially designed instruction applies to each child's IEP. So starting this month in a few of our elementary schools and Newtown Middle School, Last year I worked with some really good teachers to work on a presentation from teachers for teachers because they speak the common language. And they can help each other, learn from each other to make sure that every child is being applied the curriculum that's reasonably calculated for meaningful progress and participation in that program. So they are just two things that we're working on for inclusive practices. I mentioned the special education plan, the last slide. We will also be talking about educational environment or the least restrictive environment. So we will also be talking with the greater group of stakeholders about how we can look better to meet all of our children in the least restrictive environment. Structured literacy, Patton is going to be supporting us with structured literacy. Our support person in that area is Kirsten DeRoche, and she is going to be meeting with us regularly to see what we can do. Already, some of the things that we started for structured literacy is we're training all of our special education staff on what we call letters training. Now, this is not a educational program, so to speak. This is just professional development for teachers so they can learn about the science of reading. They can learn how students learn to make graphemes and phonemes, morphology of making sounds and so forth. And it's a really intense program. It is pretty much like a college course. It is 4 full days of reading, intensive reading instruction in terms of how do people learn to read and how we can apply and generalize that knowledge with any reading program. So it's a really good program, but it's only one step. This is just the first thing we're going to do. We're going to do much more than that with the support of Patton. I also wanted to talk about our intensive learning support program. A few months back when we had our meeting, we had some parents raise a concern about the intensive learning support program at Holland Elementary School. And I met with pretty much every parent and I listened to their concerns. And I didn't want to move anybody. And a few people reached out to me, can we do this, can we do that? And I really want to thank everybody for their feedback, because you know what I was able to do? I was able to go back and look to see what those caseloads were and the class sizes and so forth, so that we don't need to move anybody out of Holland Middle School. Thank you. Holland Elementary School, I appreciate it. Holland Elementary School, what we're doing is we're just going to, as we have a big population of 6th graders. As they age out, there will be a reduction in need at Holland Elementary School. At the same time, next year we'll be beginning another program over at Richborough Elementary School where there will be more space. So I just wanted to, I don't know if any of the families are here tonight, but I know they were very concerned. I didn't want to share it with them until I shared it with the board. And I just want them to know, to rest assured that we are not going to be forcing or moving anybody out of a building once they've developed relationships, friendships, and so forth. Because I really believe, it's the relationship that matters. It's the family that matters. So that concludes pretty much our special education topics, but I can answer some questions if anybody has any questions.
Ms. Horner?
Can you go back to where you said the planning committee, you said it's how many times you're gonna meet? That was going to be 5 meetings?
I believe it's going to be 5 meetings.
Mr. Hidalgo, was that it, Ms. Horner?
Yeah.
Mr. Hidalgo?
So I'm excited because, we haven't been in an education meeting for the last couple months. So it's nice to see all this stuff coming around. And so if I'm getting this correct, basically all those meetings we were having with concerned parents last year, and we did some things for the special services, informational subjects. You took that, and these are the 3 initiatives that you worked on over the summer.
Yes.
And I have to say it's really good stuff. It's touching on a lot of the points that I had heard before. I'm really happy to see the work that you're doing, and the fact that you're getting this on par. And then the thing before that, we have 5 full months of feedback and group talk to get a program together for the next 3 years to satisfy the state requirements. So that's just kudos, because I know you've been working hard all summer. It's, you came up with these initiatives, right? With the feedback you group and the cabinet. So just want to make sure I understood that correctly and say, thanks, keep it up. Got a lot of work to do, but we're working hard. Thank you.
Mr. Tate?
Mr. Devlin, thanks very much for the good news about not having to move kids out of Holland Elementary. That's good.
It is very good.
I congratulate you for that. What's the status of the hire for the new curriculum coordinator for special ed?
So we are still searching for that person. We have a couple finalists, and then hopefully within the next week or so, we will have a final interview with the board, and then we'll put a name in front.
Great. Well, having personally participated in the interview process, I think it's admirable that you all are, leaving no stone unturned and going to get this right, because it's an important position. I think it's really pivotal in all this conversation about special ed that we have the right person in there for this job.
It is.
Good to hear.
Thank you.
Ms. Oseki?
Yes, thank you. Thanks, Mr. Devlin. I have a couple questions. So I want to understand, because I'm confused, and I imagine I'm not the only one, the difference between the Special Ed Planning Committee and the CPAC. Because I got a couple emails today that an email went out to parents and it referenced that there was going to be a CPAC, and you just used the word CPAC.
Yes, I did.
So is there going to be a CPAC, or is this a planning committee?
So at our meeting last Tuesday, we shared with the group that we will have a CPAC, and our first meeting will be to work on the special education plan. So we will be working on the special education plan. So the CPAC will be working on the special education plan with us, if that answers the question.
So, but you said
That'll be the
that,
first of many different initiatives that we'll be working on.
okay, so it's not just going to be 5 meetings?
It will not just be 5 meetings.
Okay. Okay, well, that's good. I'm glad to hear that there's going to be a CPAC. I think parents have been asking for that, so I'm glad to hear that. And I'm happy to hear also about the Michaela's Voice program. I think that's awesome. I've done a little research on that. It seems like a great program.
It's going to be awesome. The kids are going to love it. The families are going to love it.
And obviously, I think it makes sense to start at the 4 schools that you named for that. Is that something that can go into the high schools, middle schools, high schools also?
Originally, I was going to have it in every building, but there is a cost to it. And
Yeah.
So
maybe eventually.
yes, definitely.
Okay. As far as the inclusive practices that we're working on now, is there a push to include inclusivity in students' neighborhood schools?
Yes.
Can you speak to that a little?
Well, I mean, we would always look, when you say inclusivity, so we would include the students into their general education classrooms, or that's what you're speaking to?
I'm thinking about kids who might want to attend their neighborhood school as opposed to go to, the support program at Goodnow or,
So there is, so I can't speak to that now. There is always a continuum of services, and it is an IEP team decision.
So I guess that's not, it sounds like inclusivity in that way is not what we're focused on. When you say inclusive practices, like right now, that's not the priority.
Again, when we have the CPAC meeting with the special education plan, we'll be developing and we'll be looking at all of those things. So I can't, and I don't want to answer those questions right now because it's the stakeholders that will make those decisions.
Okay. And then as far as the professional development you referenced, you use the phrase real quick professional development.
So that'll be the first.
Tell me it's not real quick.
Well, I mean, when I say,
I'm not interested in real quick professional development.
Well, it's, a lot, some of the times, multiple 45-minute, consistent, ongoing, embedded professional development is what is needed.
Is that what we're gonna have?
So we're starting with this presentation. We also have different presentations that we're working on in terms of like AAC devices. So then general education teachers know how to use the AAC device. We have social stories going to the different buildings. So these are all just, yes, that's what we will have a menu of them.
Those are trainings done by people within Council Rock?
They will be, right now.
An expert and something comes to talk about?
We're getting support from the IU for the AAC,
Okay.
first off. Right now, we have internal social stories, behavioral support. we have a really great behavioral support team. That is definitely a point of difference here at Council Rock. We should be very proud of that. And our UDL, we have very strong teachers, Amy Lafferty, Jamie Sager, who have many years' experience, and they have great communication skills, and they know how to include students. So they'll be working with their peers and contemporaries in their buildings and their programs to start the discussion and to show them.
So your idea is that like each one of those might do a 45-minute training? Is
Yes.
that what you're thinking? Okay, great.
For everybody, so we'll be consistent, and then we would build upon that.
And then my last question is if you could comment on where we are with staffing for some of our special ed, or all of our special ed classrooms at the moment. I know we still have some positions open.
So right now, I'll have to get back to you. I did review this with Mr. Spring. We have a nurse at Achieve that is an open position, but right now would not be fair to me to just to give that answer right now. So can I get back to you with that?
Yes, please, thank you.
Mr. Hickey?
Well, Tracy, you just took my first question. I was going to ask about where we were with staffing and is it adequate? And as you do mention, we are missing, I'll say a second in command, as it were, coordinator, whatever position, which has probably hindered your efforts in some way. My question actually, my other question had just related to the extended school year. And I think I just missed what you said. What is the criteria for getting into that extended school year?
There's a criteria checklist that's offered by Patton that our teachers use, and they have to answer a series of questions. But some of the criteria deal with progression, recruitment, mastery of skills, inconsistent educational programming throughout the year, and it's an IEP team decision.
Now, is 431 students who attended, is that, I'm assuming, did the offer go out to more than that? And we had, how many students were actually offered the program?
I can get the team an answer. Okay. I do have the answer to the staff.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, Mr. Hickey, were you finished with your questioning before we circle back to Ms. Osecki?
You answered it adequately enough for what I wanted to know, so yeah, you can circle back. Oh, I hate that expression. Strike that.
Okay, so we can move on. All right, I know there was a couple other board members that had their hands raised, so
Can I do the staffing? Or no?
I'm sorry, Mr. Hidalgo, we're still, so Mr. Devlin, did you want to address Ms. Osecki's?
I may.
Okay.
If I may.
Thank you.
So right now we have 4 support staff nurse, they can either be nurse or TA position. I think, but they will be filled very soon. Those positions will be, I'm just getting that news right now, that they will be filled very soon. We have 6 TA positions. The 6 TA positions includes 18 new TA positions that have been approved at the last 2 board meetings, which have already been filled. We have 2 high school special education teacher positions open. We have 1 psychologist position open. And don't forget that we still have a supervisor position open, secondary, and we do have that supervisor curriculum and specialized instruction. And can I just shout out to the supervisors. They have been really putting in a lot of work to cover these needs. And it hasn't just been them. It has been, other departments, C&I helping us put together professional development. It has been everybody working together to make sure all of our students are getting what they need.
Mr. Hidalgo?
Yeah, thank you. So I'm pretty sure I had seen something over the wire today or yesterday about the staffing updates, so we did get an email about that. So I'm happy because me as a parent of a person first year at Achieve, they were having staffing issues when we went and had our decision meeting in August. And to know, email came, I was like, wow, well, they filled that quickly. Which leads me to the point that staffing of support staff or filling those positions is becoming very, very difficult. And it's been since I've been on the board. We're doing a very good job at compensation in most of our collective bargaining groups, but I don't feel that we have the right structure. We have now some teachers on and people who are members of different collective bargaining groups on the board. We really have to really dig in over these next two negotiating years and really focus, though, even though the teachers come first, that support staff, we really have to make sure we leave some space because we're not getting, it's not easy to fill and maintain these positions at what we're doing. And that's coming from a parent whose experiences in firsthand. So kudos that we got as many positions filled as we did. I wanted to move on to, I think your question, Mr. Secchi, about whether special needs children can have their services provided at their local neighborhood school is something obviously that I thought about a lot, and it was a major decision in which program I tried to advocate for my student to be in. Because when I came here, the intensive learning or the autistic support program was at Richboro, and I was very happy to see. It was only for the 1 year before they moved it to Holland. I experienced the change. Richboro was amazing. The student population, the farewell, the inclusion was better actually than it was when we moved to Holland. And I understand it's a lot farther from me living in Richboro to go to Holland, so I understand the needs of what the parents are asking for. And then you think about, whether we're going to advocate to have not only, because let's just say every school has a child with special needs in different program, then we would need 13, the staffing and then the support staff and everything else. The reason why we consolidate and have what we call these district classrooms is more for a logistics purpose than and everything else, to be honest with you. It's a very difficult thing. But and I can say, yeah, slap me and myself for saying the reality of it all. But not every school district takes on special services the way that Council Rock has. That is a added plus that we do. And you have, Mr. Devlin and a very small crew that take on an entire thing that, I don't know what Bucks County IU, how they do. Actually, I do know how they do it from other school districts that I was in. So I'm thinking the reason, if we could advocate for that, before we even advocate for it, let's look at what the cost is going to be. And I believe it would be comparable to full-day kindergarten. I would love to do so many, many, many things. And not moving the students when that's what we may have done under other administrations, and basically grandfathering that program in Holland is a very great compromise. Because obviously we have 10 new school classrooms in Richboro. It would make a lot of sense to move the program back to Richboro. So I just wanted to, just wondering if anybody's advocating for doing that, then we really have to look at what the cost is, because number one, that's going to be one of the biggest things. In an ideal world, none of us want to move our kids. Like, I changed programs because I didn't want my special needs kid to go to the north. I want him to be with his sister and their friends, whether he knows it or not. I think he does. Mm-hmm. And so all I'm saying is this program, what we're doing here in the school district is very special. We got the Star Center, we got the Starborough Cafe, and we just need to really prop up each other right now because you guys deserve a pat on the back.
Thank you, I appreciate that. If I can just share a little bit more about the staffing. So staffing, it's not fixed, it's fluid. It all depends on students as they move into the district, move out of the district, as they grow, as they establish more needs. But I wanted to share with you and the team, some of our staffing, I'm telling you, I worked many different districts, a few other districts, and I love the staffing here. I mean, we have classrooms with 6 adults to 8 students, 5 to 7 students, 6 to 6 students, 6 adults to 6 students. Our staffing is amazing here. It doesn't mean that we're not ever gonna need to have more. It's gonna change, it's gonna be fluid. But our supervisors are quick to see where those needs are. And when a need pops up, we look for ways to meet those needs, to ensure that students have access and participation and great learning experiences, whether it's academic, or whether it's social, or whether it's employability.
Thank you. I'm sorry, Ms. Polly, I have to apologize. She was before Mr. Hidalgo, but then there was some confusion, so my fault.
So going back to the extended school year, who provides the funding for that?
The school district provides the funding for the extended school year.
Okay, and you said 431 students?
Yes.
And we have about 1,700 special ed students.
Correct.
So there is this checklist, but I wonder if more parents could have are given the opportunity for their child to attend, not only through that list, if they express the desire for their child to attend, can we accommodate them?
Possibly, it's an IEP team decision. It's an IEP team decision.
And by
Yes, go ahead.
It's based on recoupment, regression, mastery of skills, if they're gonna master it soon, inconsistent educational programming, severity of impairment or disability.
Okay.
And that's what the state wants us, that's what the state says we need to base it on.
Okay. I mean, I don't know, I just felt that maybe it's not enough number of students, because I know that population has a lot of needs, so
Yes, yep.
if we can have more students participate, if they want to, that would be very helpful.
Okay.
Yeah. So you mentioned, if I understood correctly, there was a 4-day workshop for structural literacy. Is that professional development for teachers?
Well,
What's the 4-day workshop?
so the 4-day, it's a 4-day, so matter of fact, I'm starting the second cohort this year with a group of 40 additional teachers. Last year it was 40 teachers. They received the volume 1 of letters training. It was a 4-day workshop, so it was 4 days staggered throughout the year. Because the first session is 8 hours, and they have to learn that, apply it, generalize it, come back, do the second lesson. Talk about it, say how they worked it within the classroom, share out, learn the new skill, learn, and so forth. Then a month goes by, then they do the same thing. So while it's 4 days, it's not 4 consecutive days, because it's embedded, it's ongoing, it's meaningful. Teachers use the new learning as they're exposed to it, and then it sticks with them better. Teachers, when I talked to the supervisor, I said, remember, we are the teachers of the teachers. So just as we expect our teachers to present a lesson, we as supervisors, when we provide professional development, need to use those same tools, tricks of the trade to teach others.
Right. So have all the teachers gone through that training?
Right now, there's 80. So it's not all, but 80, and I don't know offhand how many special education teachers we have. We have more than 80. I want to say most of our elementary teachers have gone through it, or and it's not going to be I mean, I owe it to special education families that are students, when they are pulled out in a special education class for reading, that they have that knowledge base. Now, newer teachers coming out of college, they've already had it, right? So within probably the last 3 or 4 years. So, but yes, so it won't be just the just these 2 cohorts.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions or comments? I did have I had a couple, or maybe just one. In terms of talking about the new positions, specifically teachers' assistants, are they also receiving training of some sorts for special education and being in the classrooms?
Yes. So special education, so one of the things that I've worked on with our BCBAs is that they have really, we all work well together, and I've asked them each to become what we call CPI instructor certified. So they can teach students de-escalation activities, not, further de-escalation activities and so forth. So our TAs now, we can train pretty much all of them, in CPI techniques to assist in behavior support. So there's a full 8-hour program that our BCBAs can do monthly. So we have a monthly plan for that for our TA staff. Dr. Cantor and Mr. Helsinger, they have programs for our TAs on how to support students in the autistic support program. I said earlier about the AAC device. So I'm working with the intermediate unit to provide training to our speech therapists on how to teach our speech therapists how to now instruct our general education teachers and special education teachers on how to model, prompt, and use and program our AAC devices, augmented speech devices, I'm sorry, effectively in the classroom. And they are just, so yes, and even our TAs, bus monitors, we provide training for our bus monitors and so forth. So yeah, so that is that we are doing. I'm working with the support staff union. So if they have any ideas what they think their teachers need, I don't know if it was this year or the end of last year, we have, again, this is a great district. We have some really good experienced TAs here, teaching assistants. I've relied on them to provide professional development. They know what works with our students in our community. I ask them to help us develop professional development so they can do turnaround with that. But I'm always looking for new ways to make sure that our teaching assistants are well trained, because they are with our students just as much as our teachers are.
Thank you. I'm glad to hear that the general education classes are also receiving some training for special education. And I know you and I have gone back and forth a bit about trying to clarify the CPAC versus the special ed committee. So I'm glad to hear that tonight for the first time, it's a little more clear that they're kind of one within the other, but the CPAC will continue on and continue to do the work beyond once your plan is completed.
Correct.
Okay, great, thank you. Any other questions or comments before we move on? Okay.
Next, I would like to introduce Dr. Black to talk about our wellness survey.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for having me back to talk a little bit more about our wellness survey. If you remember, we talked at a committee meeting back in the spring about what this could look like. And so I'm here to tell you that we are ready to proceed with rolling out the survey. I wanted to talk with you a little bit about what that will look like. So the survey will go out to parents and staff members of all Council Rock students K to 12. We will have it open for approximately a 2-week period. And this is how it will open. It tells the individual who is completing it the purpose for completing it, and then also asks what role they play, either a staff member, a parent, or both. And then it proceeds to ask what grade band they will be answering about. So there's K1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 for middle school, 9, 10, 11, 12, and transition age 18 to 22. So for each of those bands, then the individual would be able to answer some questions related. All of the questions are the same for each of the bands. And we will talk about, or they will answer questions as to how important certain things are to them for students in that grade band. I don't want to go too fast, but I'll show you. I can come back if you'd like. But this is what it will look like. So there would be five questions. Again, they're the same for every grade band that look at what type of need they feel our students in that particular grade band show. And then there will be an open-ended question at the end where they can provide any information that they think that we need to make sure we're considering when we're selecting a program to address student social, behavioral, and emotional wellness in the district. The outcomes here, so reducing emotional distress, reducing problem behavior, those are aligned again with the CASEL, the Collaborative for Academic, Social, Emotional Learning. effective outcomes. So they research school district programs, and they're a nonprofit national organization that researches school district programs and determines what types of outcomes that program is effective at promoting in students. And so, for example, if we decide that the district feels, or the staff and the parents feel that reduced problem behavior is something that's extremely needed for our second and third grade students, we will look into programs that have been proven to show outcomes that improve problem behavior for students at that grade band. Again, here's the timeline. So the survey will be sent to all parents and staff and will remain open for 2 weeks. At the next Ed Committee meeting, I'd like to be able to come back and share the results with you of what we find from the survey and how we can use that to try to narrow down what types of programs we could be considering for our students at different grade levels. Questions?
Questions and comments, Mr. Roosevelt?
I've got plenty, but I don't have to go first, so.
Ms. Horner?
You said there's 5 questions?
Yes.
So where's the rest of them? Those are only 3.
So, yeah, no, I can tell you what they are. It's the same questions, but just back up. So reducing the 5, they're aligned with the 5 outcomes. So they all rank the level of need, so emotional distress, problem behavior, school climate, school connectedness, and social behavior. Those are the 5 areas.
I think there just weren't slides to show those other 3 questions.
Yes.
Do you mind if I?
Sure.
I want to just share something. So this is going to coincide with some of the other things that we do, like the PAYS data, MTSS data, our Swiss data. So these are some of the things that we already collect. So we know that there is a need in terms of behavior, suspensions, expulsions, at-risk behavior, protective factors, and so forth. So now we have the student information, right? We have the teacher information in terms of MTSS and the Swiss data. And now we're going to get the teacher and the parent data. So this is just increases our participation, our sample size to see what we need to do to support our families and our students better here in the community. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Other questions, comments?
Oh, well,
Mr.
I've got plenty, but
Right.
I'm happy to.
Let me go before you.
Mr. Hidalgo? Okay.
So, that was a quick presentation. I can't believe I missed it. So I'm sure Mr. Roosevelt's going to speak to this too. So this goes back to our meeting that we had back when we spoke about doing a survey in the fall.
In the spring?
Yeah, the meeting in the spring to have a survey in the fall.
Correct.
So I look at the questions and, I don't even know what social emotional learning is. I'm on the school board and I don't really understand all of this initiative and what's going on. And I don't think parents understand it either. So of course we get a little concerned when we see something don't understand. There's all kinds of media out there about different things that are like surrounding around things like this. So I see basically, reducing emotional stress. It's kind of like when you go into a doctor's office and they ask you if you are depressed, and the next thing you know, you're on a serotonin inhibitors and everything else. So I want to know, out of this survey and the way you designed it, what is the survey like? Whether many kids or not many kids want, or parents have the needs to address these, what would we say then? We wouldn't do something, or we're doing something? Do you guys have an idea of what the programs are you can do to address these issues? Kind of like, as I go back to the antidepressant thing, we have the solution for you. We just need you to answer the question here. So if it's only one solution that we have to address this, I'd like to know more about that. I think we need to have more discussions about that to educate the parents about what they're getting themselves into, because everybody wants to reduce their stress. Everybody in this society has stress right now. the phones, the TV, the interactions, the technology, we're all under all kinds of pressure, right? So we already can say yes to all these questions and say, we need to do what we're gonna do, but we're not speaking about what we're doing. We're gonna wait and get results and say, I can tell you right now, you don't have a line, you're gonna say, well, everything's hunky-dory, we're just gonna stay there. So this goes back to me being on the board for the entire time, where surveys have always been used to get to the next step, but surveys we're not like professionals, we're not professionals at doing surveys. So I appreciate it, but I'm trying to figure out who's responsible, who takes credit for developing this survey, or whose idea was it?
Oh, I developed it, I didn't mean to say.
Well, whose initiative? Who said, let's do a survey, because that's gonna help us figure out where we're going? Because I don't remember that conversation.
That might have been me too. So the issue is, I know you had spoken to there being one solution, but there are actually a lot. So Castle has 99 approved programs currently, and so these.
I'm sorry, can you just say, I'm sorry to interrupt, but what was that, CASA?
Castle, the collaborative, it's a nonprofit national organization that.
Cece, maybe you can go over some of the things, I'm sorry to interrupt. So, because I don't think he has all the information. It was a short presentation, maybe you can repeat some of it, so we have.
Absolutely.
Well, not even, you don't have to repeat to me now. What I want to do is I want to slow things down and create information my main goal here is to slow down and to create information for the public to digest before they take a survey. Otherwise, don't even do the survey, because we already know that we're all going to answer yes to this. The majority of us are going to say yes. We feel like our kids have stress and we need to do things. What I think Mr. Roosevelt and others in the.
Doggo, I'm sorry to interrupt, but is there a question for Dr. Black? And then I just want to keep them.
No, it's okay. I'm going to continue to say what I have to say because it's my turn to speak.
Okay, so there is a question, or are you just commenting at this present time?
I am actually just making comments and doing what I have to do.
Okay.
I didn't know that I was limited to questions. I didn't think that was part of your rules you stated in the beginning.
I did not state that, so you.
Good.
Continue.
Then I don't know what you're doing.
I was just clarifying what was happening for the purpose of the meeting and the fact that it is 9:03, so I just wanted to be respectful. This is,
Okay, anyway, I
just
think
clarify it.
the line of questioning is basically what I'm trying to get at is I think we need to slow this down. I don't think we should do the survey right now. I think we need to put this off and get more information out to the public. And now, maybe you could let Mike answer his question, but there's no reason for you to interrupt me when I'm speaking, just because you're the chair, and you don't, maybe not like what I'm saying. No.
I asked the chair if I.
Oh, look at you.
I thought you deferred because you said you had a lot of questions.
I did.
So now you're not deferring.
All right, so
Seems like this is evolving.
Let the chair run the meeting.
Kind of recenter here, okay, please? I mentioned this at the beginning. This would be a topic that had very passionate perspectives. I get that. That's why we're having this discussion, and that's what it is at the Education Committee. So can we just continue to be respectful? I know, Mr. Roosevelt, you said you deferred. Are you ready to have some comment? And then Mr. Tate?
Thank you. I would just appreciate not being cut off, so thank you. So what I'm trying to say is there's a lot of questions here. I don't think that the survey was done correctly, but as far as I have questions. You saw my email about how you guys had a meeting, and I'll ask you a question. That you said in the beginning of the meeting that you had a chair, as chair, that you went over this meeting with the SEL with Ms. Black, right? Right, so you didn't ask superintendent, you broke the protocol of the board.
Okay.
I'm just gonna finish what I'm saying. And then, but you weren't doing it just as the chair, you invited 2 other board members to have this meeting. And I made it quite clear, and I spoke to Mr. Tate and the superintendent to say, why are you having this private meeting when we have the committee meeting the next week? And I don't know what was discussed there, I don't know what you guys did, and that's just your part. The other part that Ms. Polly also asked for a meeting about special ed. and that three of you
No,
met.
actually, I asked for it.
Well, somebody, right, but you're not the ed chair, so you
Right.
guys are creating these meetings and causing, and then we don't know what's going on. I don't know what you guys, and yes, it's passionate, because I don't know what any of this is all about, and I'm just representing myself here, where I don't understand why you guys are pushing the survey, where we haven't even had a vote or a discussion about it, and all of a sudden you're talking about, here's the survey, it's gonna be done in September, and October at the next committee meeting, we're gonna discuss the results. That's not how this board operates, okay? And I'm just putting it out there in public. That's not how a good board operates. And I thought I made that clear to Mr. Tate, but apparently there's meetings happened anyway. So that's where I stand. And so why did you have to have that meeting and invite 2 other people? There's my question to you. Why not invite everybody? And what was the purpose and what happened?
For this purpose of this meeting, I will address that question, but I know there are other questions, so as chair, I typically wait till the end, so I will address your question.
No problem. You can do it even at the board meeting, because we'll come back up for under new business. Done.
So Mr. Roosevelt, I see you, Mr. Hickey, have your hand raised. I'm back to Mr. Roosevelt. I know there's other board members also waiting their turn and queued up, so Mr. Roosevelt.
Sure, fine, since I'm being called upon. My questions might be a little bit quicker. So we understand that you developed it. How many questions does the survey contain?
For grade band, there are 5 Likert scale questions and 1 open-ended question.
All right, so each grade band has a total of 6 questions to ask? Okay, great. And then you authored all of the questions?
Correct, they are all the same.
Okay. And then how much time, did you have anybody helping you with this, or is this all your time?
I did.
Okay, how much time did this occupy over the past 3 or 4 months? I don't know when it started.
Not that much, it's the same questions repeated.
Okay,
I don't know, I couldn't quantify that for you, but it's not a complicated survey, if that's what you're asking. I think the only complicated part is just showing the person where to go.
I'm just trying to understand who you worked with and how much time it took you and or the team.
Say a few hours.
A few hours, okay, great. And what is the desired goal of this? It was helpful to hear Mr. Devlin's point from the quantitative aspects of data from within the district, from other aspects. What is the intended goal that this survey will demonstrate?
Similarly, to find another source of data showing where the needs lie and what types of outcomes. But we do have other data. This would just be one piece of data to his point.
Okay.
To add to that, yes.
So when we're looking at some of these questions, are you asking the parents to evaluate the other kids and or parents in their grade? When we say something like, please rank the level of need of our 2nd and 3rd grade students, reducing problem behavior. If I'm a parent and I receive this survey, am I evaluating it for my child that may or may not be in this grade, or am I evaluating it for the rest of the students that may or may not be in that grade?
If your child is not in this grade, you would not see it.
I understand that, but hypothetically, I've got a child in 3rd grade. Am I answering this for my student's need in 3rd grade, or am I answering this based upon all the kids that I have seen with my child in 3rd grade?
I would say for all of the students, because that's what this is for.
Okay. So we're asking this to both parents as well as teachers, and we're comparing this to internal data.
Yes.
And so at the end of this, if we have an indication that there is need, that parents and teachers believe there is need, to Mr. Hidalgo's point, what would then be, you indicate that you're referring to Castle's 99 programs, would you then use this data to figure out which and how many of the 99 would be implemented?
Not how many would be implemented, how many we should consider for implementation.
Okay, and so then then you're going to conduct a presentation on, based upon this data, I think you should consider these programs from the 99.
Here,
right?
Not exactly. I think we would develop a committee who would look at that, so it wouldn't be my personal opinion, but we would take this data and determine which program should be considered by the committee, yes.
Okay, and then at what point does the board get to vote on whether this is going to be implemented or not, or whether it gets moved forward or not? Similar to full-day kindergarten, we had lots of sort of milestone or stepping stones that got us to this point. Are we going to have similar stepping stones in this?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, because I think the other problem that maybe occurs is some morphing language, what some people might say word salad, or where there's a lot of descriptive terms that go up, but they don't really provide any quantified elements of results to solve a problem, or that sort of diagnosing and that sort of causational expectation. So this is where, when you leave this much open-ended, I think this is where people have the ability to input their own, either positive or negative, that they feed into that. And I think that I agree with Mr. Hidalgo. At some point, if there's 99 programs and we're only considering Castle, you couldn't disagree that that wouldn't be helpful to educate the community and the teachers and the parents and the board on what this all is. Because if we're answering survey questions without full information, do we expect the result to be complete?
I thought, well, yes, but I guess at the Ed Committee meeting in the spring, I spoke to what Castle was, and I believe I showed what the Castle website does and how it shows the effective outcomes. So, but we can do additional explanation, but I think that was already kind of relayed. And if there are other organizations that do research on SEL programs that you'd like us, the committee, to consider, we'd be happy to if you feel that there are others. It's kind of a jumping off point, and it's the well-known research.
I like that you said it's a jumping off point, because I think that that's part of it. This is being sent to a large portion of parents. So it's not necessarily information that I think I or some of my board colleagues around this table need, but I think it's more of information that we're providing to the people that are completing the survey that they need. And it's probably a deeper dive than just looking quickly at a website and say, here's some homework. I always feel, like I mentioned earlier in this meeting, it's helpful to understand what the problem is, how wide this problem is, and what, as professional educators, the group of you plan on doing to resolve it. So with this, just talking about the 2 of the 6 questions that we're seeing here, how do we evaluate a behavior problem beyond the data that we have of students getting into trouble? There's 10,000, pretty close to 10,000 students, but how many of those roughly come into problems every year? Only probably less than 100?
Well, I think
or more, right?
So we have, at the elementary and middle school level, we have the Swiss data, the PBIS. So problem behaviors is defined here, and the ones that it sounds like you're referencing we collect much more data than that. So we have the themes of being safe and respectable and all of those things and responsible, and the definitions, the operational definitions of those, and then when children have infractions related to those, all of that data is collected and charted. So we have lots of data showing not the type of disciplinary infractions you're referring to, but other types, where they might have their cell phone out when they're not supposed to, or they, were having an issue with a friend, a conflict.
Yeah, that's really helpful. Are those definitions packed into the beginning of the survey so the people that answer it understand what category of behavior problems we're talking about when we ask this question?
No, but that would be a separate data point, was my point. So this is soliciting input from parents and teachers as to where do you see our needs, but then we have all of these other we don't need a replication of that quantifiable data. We don't need the parents to weigh in on that. We have that data in numerical values. This is, as a parent, this is soliciting feedback from the parents and the staff who are with our children all day, every day. What are the needs that you're seeing? And the reason that I did push for this survey, to be honest with you, is I wouldn't look at programs without doing something like this. There are the districts that in the past when I've been on these types of committees, the districts that surround us chose programs based on what was giving them a discount or what was in vogue at the time, and that's not the way that I want to do it. And so I wanted to get as much data from our community as possible to figure out what is the perfect program for our students. So that's the reasoning behind this, is just getting more and more information to narrow down what we're looking at and make sure that it is indeed what our students need.
You would agree that if you're asking for opinions, it would be good to define the terms of which the opinion should be surrounding.
Mm-hmm, sure.
Right. And if we're asking for qualifiable data from parents, basically you're asking, what's your opinion? Right? So how do we understand if we have a good sample size? And how do we, once again, the problem with a lot of surveys that we wonder about is how do you make sure that it doesn't oversample? How do you safeguard the approach of somebody start clicking the link 5, 10, 15, 20, 100 times? How do we protect against a lot of that?
No survey's perfect, and I'm an amateur, but there are a couple pieces here. So we are making them sign in so that they can only complete the survey one time. As far as the definitions of these things, I did try to include a little bit of an explanation of what they mean, but if you're feeling like more explanation for each of these would be helpful, I can add that.
Yeah, I'm just concerned from the same element that I expressed earlier. When we leave some open-ended terms, or we have a structure that's really sort of 30,000-foot view question, there's a lot of interpretation and interpolation on the way down to get to the answer. So if we want this survey to have some sort of value beyond just a hip shot of where the community is, I think some of this would be helpful. It's certainly to alleviate maybe concerns from board members, from community members, to have some of that in there. But the next question, I guess, that was packed in there was sample size. If there's 10,000 students, right, some of them have siblings, some of them have, maybe there's different parents, who knows? We're asking an interesting sample size. What is the sample size that is effective to know, hey, I got enough out of this? For example, if I was tasked to poll this room, and I only turned to Mr. Hickey, and then I came back to you and I said, this is what we're doing, this is what the community said. Would you all accept that? Probably not, right? So how do we relate that to the community at large of the teachers and the parents in this community to make sure that we have an adequate and effective sample size?
I know.
What is that? You have a number in mind?
Generally with surveys, they say 20% is what you can expect, so that would be 2,000. But when I speak with teachers throughout the day, since I am involved with counselors and psychologists, they like to share these things with me, and they seem to be excited to share input with me related to this. So I might expect that from as far as our educators, we might have a larger sample size than 20%. I don't know if the same will be true of parents, but.
Right, because I think if we break it down, social, emotional, learning, and if you take the term wellness, right, those are all very interestingly defined terms. And I agree with Mr. Hidalgo, understanding what the implementation, what are we trying to achieve socially? What are we trying to achieve emotionally? And how is this going to impact learning? And how is this going to impact what we determine or define as wellness? I think that's a really good starting point so that everybody that's not only authoring this survey, but sitting around this table voting for it, suggesting for it, and the people that are answering it understand that we're on the same page. I think that would be helpful. So with respect to stress, right, I don't know, maybe some people disagree with me, I'm sure some people do, but I think stress is sort of a reciprocal emotion. It's not only what is being projected onto you, but how you
manage it.
Yes, absolutely.
And each of us have a different level of what we can no longer manage. And that's when we say, I'm stressed, right? So teaching our students that are ever encountering more and more rigor and more education, I think that's bound to happen. Teaching them how to deal with that is interesting. I'm also concerned about the data that looks at how many degrees this country is currently producing. There's more and more and more degreed individuals, educated individuals with multiple degrees, or the percentage of kids that go through college actually get, numbers of degrees are going up. But curiously, apparently, literacy, they say, is going down. So maybe that's because of emotional problems. So I think it would be helpful if we could advocate a way to help students manage their stress, instead of just trying to just decrease it. Because then we get to a point of a society potentially, or a group of individuals, that really lack a lot of capacity and ability to reduce their own stress. And that's a concerning society. So I think it's better if we understand how to help each other, support each other, and increase our ability to manage stress. So I don't know if that's fitting in to what your definition of social emotional learning is, but I think that's part of the conversation. I also agree that, and I find that the more we talk about something that society determines to be negative, the more you have individuals say, I have this problem, right? And so that's another element. We don't want to create victims. We want to educate students to be the best that they can be, to be the smartest, the brightest, so that they can be the most successful and achieve the highest amounts later on in life. And for them to come back and say, I got this from Council Rock, right? That's what this community, that's why a lot of people move to this community. It's why a lot of people stay in this community. It's why we have a lot of passionate people that are upset when they say, oh, gee, Council Rock isn't what it used to be. Dr. Sanko and your administration, I think, are doing a great job of coming back to that and re-engaging into that pride. And so that takes a reciprocal approach. So I think that this is a deeper conversation that involves multitudes of different facets and multiple different ways to resolve it. And I think that that's part of the conversation, so that we can get something back that's meaningful on how we can move Council Rock forward in a productive and a strong way. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Tate?
I think it's really a pretty simple issue, which is we recognize that, and we've talked in many, many meetings over the past nearly 9 years I've been on the board, about the fact that student social and emotional learning is an extremely high priority, because there is irrefutable evidence that stress and student mental health and emotional health is a greater concern today than it's ever been. I think we've talked about the fact, that that's especially true having gone through the experience we had with COVID. Life is difficult for kids, and it's gotten more difficult. And this district, I felt it was unanimous around the board table and around the administration that we needed to really devote a great deal of attention to student wellness in a variety of ways. All the way from emotional to physical to the social environment in schools. And there's many, many ways that we're trying to address it. We in this district have made major investments in students' wellness. We've added counselors, we've added programming, we've done a lot of things that I'm very proud of. And I think what we're talking about tonight is a very simple survey that Dr. Black and the administration wants to put forward. I don't think the questions are really very ambiguous. I think the idea of surveying teachers and parents about needs around student wellness is a great idea, and I think Dr. Black made it clear this is just going to be one data set among a number of indicators that'll be used. Please correct me if I'm wrong. Is the purpose to collect data to continually assess the programs that we're going to use to address student wellness? Is that correct?
Yes, to identify the needs, exactly, identify the needs, and then are there programs that would meet those needs?
Which programs best meet the needs? That's what you explained to us back in the spring when we learned about CASEL and 99 approved programs. I think there's probably very few parents out there that really have the time and interest to learn about CASEL. They trust us to run the school district. They trust our administrators as professionals to be able to find the best programs for student wellness that are available. And this is just a simple effort to gather a little bit of additional information to do that. There's nothing nefarious about it. And as Dr. Black said, no survey is perfect. I live with a needs assessment person. I know how surveys are crafted and executed, and there's a lot of judgment calls in every question, they call them items, every item that you write. So we could sit here all night and wordsmith questions. There's 6 questions here, folks. It's a very simple matter. It's an honest effort to gather data. I have heard probably every board member around this table talk about making data-driven decisions. And now we're sitting here quibbling about how the administration goes about collecting data. I think it's unfortunate. And I think it's a very simple matter. It's a yes or no. Do we want to approve this survey or not? And I think it's a fine idea. Thank you.
Mr. Heckey?
First of all, I don't think we're quibbling. I think that's a very poor choice of words. I think a lot of the questions that Mr. Hidalgo and Mr. Roosevelt are valid. I mean, first of all, you said everybody who's going to answer this question, you know, rank the level to reduce emotional stress. Everybody's going to put a 5, whether your child's affected on it by not. So then you're going to have this survey, and then like Joe said, the next thing you know, everybody says we have a problem, and we're all taking the medicine, whatever that medicine may be. And then it's probably going to be some recommended program from some university that we're going to be bringing into this school that may not even be proven to be effective. As opposed to, you know, like you said, maybe more common sense things, of which I don't even want to go into because some I'm not allowed to mention because it's a public school. You know, some of the issues we have that I've mentioned before, like we talk about like issues. One of the big problems with student wellness is the cell phone usage. What do we do about cell phones? You know, you want to promote student wellness? Stop having the cell phones. Be stricter on some of the policies that possibly we have here as it relates to the use of cell phones. And maybe the kids won't be so stressed about what they're doing. I like I said, you can make surveys be anything you want. And I get concerned when we do these things that it's really not data driven. And then, like I said, the next thing you know, we're implementing some program that really isn't effective. And if once this gets approved or whatever, and I do think we need to slow walk it a little more as opposed to in October, here's the results, here's what we're going to do, and then now we're going to implement it. Because I want to know how effective these remedial programs and what they're doing are. Like Mike said, everybody has a bunch of letters behind their name anymore that are basically meaningless. You know, we have all this education, but we can't even talk to each other. I don't know, like I said, I am really concerned, and even when we use the term wellness, because we have to use the right terminology now, and everybody has to, you know, meet the buzzwords or else we're going to offend somebody, as opposed to just being open and honest and realizing, you know, we're causing the problems in our kids. We're the ones that are putting stress on them. And as I said, so I think when you get this survey back, if you want to put it out, everybody's going to be a 4 and a 5, that we have a big problem, and it's probably bigger than most people think, and I think the solutions are probably simpler than having other people come in and saying, this is what we need. I mean, some of the problems to reduce the stress probably just have to go around at your dinner table, or, you know, the foundations that our kids are getting, that they're probably not getting at all. And no matter what program we're gonna bring in, it's not really gonna be effective. And that's a gross generalization, I know. I don't mean that for every child. For a lot of kids, these programs will work, but some of these programs, like I said, for the majority of people, it's really not gonna be effective. And I have concerns with this and where this is all heading as it relates to the education of our kids, because even just the term social emotional learning, you know, even that is like a buzzword now that everybody has to use, that we captured it, so now we're doing the right thing. Are we? I don't really know if we are.
Just really quickly, I think Mr. Tate said something interesting. He said that more and more kids are getting more and more stressed these days. I want to know why. I think that's an interesting question. I like to ask a lot of why questions, to really dig deep to find the problem. Toward Mr. Hickey's point and toward all of our point of the survey is to figure out why. Have we asked that question? Why do we find, why are children encountering more and more stress in their lives?
You want to get it?
Yes.
Well, I want,
Yes.
yeah, but, yeah.
Oh, when you write the dissertation, I'll bring it.
Hilarious.
This is the community does trust us. They trust us to have these conversations and to be thorough and not just rubber stamp everything. So I think that we are holding to that.
I'm gonna take the next
That's it, I'm good.
question. So,
Just to clarify, are you?
I was just gonna move on to the next question from Ms.
What
Oseki. I don't expect.
is the timing? Why I understand this is a good discussion, but are you trying to put something on the board agenda for like this month? Are you trying?
There is nothing weird, there's no goal to put any voting into next month's meeting. I think I was trying to get through everything, and then there was a bunch of questions and information, but I know Dr. Black already referred to it in terms of the timeline. You know, roughly the goal was to get the survey out at the end of this month, have it open for 2 months, analyze the data to come back in October to present, 2 weeks to have the survey open for two weeks, like we typically do in our survey, including 2 weekends, to then have time to digest the data, look at it, come back, present. I know Mr. Roosevelt kind of alluded to a little bit, which I was going to eventually get to, but kind of similar in a smaller scale of how we went about the full day kindergarten process, right? Presentations, information, discussion, head nods, next step. Presentation, information, discussion, head nod, next step. So that was, and I know Dr. Black had already referenced that. So in terms of, I don't believe administration is looking for a vote. There's nothing going on as a consent or non-consent or voting in next month's board meeting. This is more of, again, discussion and a head nod to complete the survey and move forward to next month. And with that, I'm going to go back to Ms. Oseki, who's been waiting, and then Ms. Stone, and continue. Thank you.
Okay. I want a couple things. First of all, everybody keeps talking about how our kids are stressed. Can you go back to the slide? This is, when you say the example here, I just want to point to, reducing emotional distress. For example, how do we need to teach our students to cope with distressing situations? I don't think anybody's really talking about whether the kids are stressed or not. They're stressed. But giving them the tools that they need is what this is about, and identifying what the major issues, and I agree, and you know, there are a lot of issues that our kids face, but how can we help to give them the tools to combat those issues? We know that our kids are struggling with stress. We know that our kids are struggling with emotional regulation. We see it in Council Rock. We see it across the country. I am sure that you guys also get calls from parents, right? I mean, I get calls from parents all the time that, my kids are having trouble with this, or, so-and-so's bullying, or, we get these calls and emails all the time. We have a problem. Like, it is a problem. Not just here in Council Rock, but across the country. And so I have a hard time with the argument that we don't need to be preparing our kids to handle these kinds of situations. I think it's really important, and I appreciate your work. I want to address Mr. Hidalgo's question from earlier in the meeting, but I would like to let this conversation about SEL come back, and maybe you can come back to me after that.
Sure. Ms. Dunn?
Yeah, so I think we all agree that nationally, the emotional well-being of our kids is important and crucial to learning. I also think, to Mr. Hickey's point, we will be looking at cell phone usage. That's part of our program going forward.
We're going to talk about it in policy.
And what I also think is important in this survey is that we're looking at different grade bands. So we're also looking at, is there a difference between kindergarten and first grade versus 10th and 11th grade? And I think that's an important difference to see internally. I understand the survey, again, it's, as Mr. Tate was saying, it's only one piece of data, but it's also allowing us to get information from parents and teachers, in addition to what's out there nationally, what we see in other school districts. I do think that we could explain a little better what the purpose of the survey is in the introduction. And I think that might be really helpful so that they can see, what are we going to use this for? So I would like to see that expanded a little more so the parents aren't asking, why am I doing this? And again, if we don't need a board approval for doing the survey, I come back to the fact that we're going to be involved in we're going to be involved in reviewing all the data from all the different sources, and then we can decide or help decide with administration what kind of programs would be best, if any, are necessary. So I would not want to stop at this point and do nothing. I think it's important to get the information, and then we can have a further discussion going forward. That's all I have to say.
Mr. Hidalgo?
All right, so I'll get back to my questions because I did go on a rant, which is, just my nature. So it's already set. You're already going to do this survey. What you showed was for informational purposes. You weren't asking for approval from the board.
I asked approval from the
Okay,
people.
so then maybe Dr. Senko will have to answer the question. Who made the executive decision? You're not looking for approval of the board. You guys just do surveys when you want, and you don't ask the board for permission? The design, input?
That's why we're here tonight. It's a discussion topic.
This isn't a discussion. What I've seen tonight is an implementation. So if it's discussion, then there is no survey. As to Ms. Polly's point, this will be something that will be up for a vote, so we can vote properly. Because, and it's fine, if you didn't, and then we're gonna skirt on something else, because what happened was, and I'll read the email from September, the confidential one, that just basically said that, I believe it was Ms. Khan who asked for an appointment about SEL with you and Tracy, which raised a lot of hairs with everybody, okay, because this is not how we do it. If it's just the chair meeting to design the meeting, is fine. I don't know, I'm gonna ask her to give a full, response of what that meeting entailed, what was discussed, and my email is very explaining what the information, because what I have am observing here is that 3 board members met with administration, okay, about SEL. And then the next thing you know, we haven't met in an education meeting all summer, and all of a sudden, we have these surveys, which I could really ask about, because obviously you say it's simple, but what are you gonna use this data for? So again, I'm not gonna get nefarious, because obviously I question everything, and we should. I think trust but verify is something that Ronald Reagan said. But the point is this, now you have 3 members that met privately, okay? And then the other 2, here, all 5 of you are gung-ho, surveys happening, we don't need a vote, this or that. To me, it's almost like, well, now we have to look at sunshine, okay, to be honest with you, sunshine violations. Because if you're gonna sit here and create a survey and push it through and make it look like, Dr. Black's making it look like this is happening, that's disrespectful to the 4 people, other board members, who are the bosses of your boss, to sit here and tell us this survey and say, oh, we talked about it in the spring. And as a parent, I already said what I mean as a parent. But this survey needs to stop. We need to continue to speak, as I said in the beginning. You guys deliberate, right? And you decide you're gonna do a survey. You're all for it. None of us even saw this.
You know, I didn't deliberate on anything, and I'm really upset that you come in here and insult everyone on this board.
Truth hurts.
No, it's not about truth.
Yeah.
We're supposed to be working together. We're talking about how we want to do this, so don't do it.
Why are you breaking protocol? Ms. Cobb, please.
I'm sorry.
Please.
Tired of you
Reprimand her.
insulting
No.
everyone all the time.
Ms. Horner?
There's a sunshine violation here, it needs to be looked at.
Because I'm still stuck on this survey. I understand getting data and getting more information. But is it 5 or 6 questions, and we only see the 2? I'd like to see the
This is
entire survey.
ridiculous.
I think we need to have this cannot come out tonight. We have to go through this together.
And so the 3 of you.
To show 2, and we show the beginning of it, that's it? We don't, now, we're keeping the rest of the survey from everybody else. I understand that you have other questions, and you're telling me what they are, but they're not there. We need to see the full survey.
Would you like me to show it to you right now?
Is it not in the presentation? Like,
It's
okay,
not.
did
No, it
the
is
other
not.
board members
It is
see it
not.
when you sat down with them?
Not.
Yes, the nod was yes.
I have
You
not
guys
seen
went.
anything.
You weren't in the meeting.
I told you the other 3 questions.
The problem is, you guys had a meeting and you did not let everybody else in on it.
I'm gonna let Ms. Oseki speak, and I know she wanted to speak, come back to this and about this meeting. I would also still like to speak to this private meeting that you keep alluding to. I was
Alluding.
waiting to get through the discussion of this. Thank you, Ms. Oseki.
Mr. Hidalgo, if
Yeah.
you wanted to attend, why didn't you RSVP to the invitation? It was
in
sent.
Indianapolis, and I'll tell you the story. I'm gonna answer your question. So when I got that notice on the September 13th notice from Dr. Sanko that, that these 2 meetings were requested by you and Ms. Khan, and other people were carbon copied into it, I had spoke to Ed and I spoke to Dr. Sanko. And I was like, I want somebody there. I'm not going to be in town. If you're going to do this, we need somebody from, the other side, so to speak, because we made sides when Yoda made her presentation about becoming president. We have the majority and the minority now. It's official. And I wanted Ann to maybe go there because a lot of other people are working. I was assured by Mr. Tate that this wasn't going to happen. That's I know you called me, maybe it's not his recollection, but the point is we also spoke saying this isn't how it's supposed to work. Everything's supposed to go through the superintendent, and everybody was invited, but I was assured in my recollection, I'm not going to put words in his mouth, that this wouldn't happen, so I let it go. And then I saw that it happened, and now I see this. And it's as if it's already set in stone, we don't need a vote. To me, I've been on the board long enough to know that we just don't shoot out surveys because 3 people in the board do it. And the funny part is the 2 others seem to know, on your side, seem to have the 5 votes you need anyway, but the public knows nothing. We're seeing 2 or 3 surveys. Yeah, you can talk all you want, but the thing is, you're not doing things right. Okay, so that's
I'm
my
not
answer.
finished.
Okay.
You know,
I want to be very clear. I have been very clear. I have concerns about the special ed program. I asked Mr. Devlin in July if we could please meet. He and I think Yoda said, oh, I'd like to be part of that. We finally were able to meet in September. I had questions I didn't want to ask publicly. I hear a lot from special ed parents, but there are two sides to every story. And I wanted to get those, and I didn't want to put them on the spot here in a committee meeting. It didn't seem appropriate. So that is why I requested that meeting. I also visited ESY over the summer with Mr. Devlin and Dr. Sanko. Same thing. Everybody was invited. I requested the meeting. I wanted to see the special ed programs in action. I requested the meeting. Everybody was invited. I was the only one who attended. I take the role that I have, that we all have on the board, very seriously. I think that being on the board is something where, you put in, you get out what you put in. I also am championing the Chancellor Center building. I have had 2 meetings this week. There's 2 more meetings next week to talk about the Chancellor Center and what avenues there are for fundraising or state and federal grants. Again, those are meetings that anybody is welcome to attend, but I'm trying to set them up because it's something that I'm feeling passionate about. This special ed program was the same way.
And I'm part of these meetings as well. I'm a part of the meetings for the Chancellor.
Yeah.
special ed meeting makes 100%, your answer is 100% accepted, like, I don't have a problem with that. The social emotional learning is a big project that was a completely different thing that resulted in a survey showing up in this meeting. So it's completely different. And it's a complete divided board, and nobody was participating in that meeting. And I was led to believe, Mr. Tate, if you want to try to correct me, but I understand that when you guys had that meeting together, the 3 of you, oh, you're not going to let me tell the
You're
truth.
referring to a phone conversation that you and I had?
Hold on, okay.
So, here's a
Be a gentleman, right?
Here's a suggestion. When you have a one-on-one phone call with somebody, consider it private. Your portrayal of our conversation is not at all the way I would portray it. I'll leave it at that. And I don't think it's appropriate for you to sit in a public meeting and say, we talked on the phone and this is what you said and so.
She asked me a question about that thing. That's the only answer I have. It's called the truth.
Makes no sense.
Okay, we can get into very good detail about the conversation that you guys have as leadership. And I'm not gonna go into leadership, but, what? You can't stand by your word, then we don't have to have any more conversations, Mr. Tate. We'll do them in public. Fair?
Okay. Due to the fact that it's 10:30, I just would like to make a couple of comments, and then I'm going to public comment. I think Dr. Sanko wanted some head nods. We can go around. I think we kind of see where the head nods are going, but we can do that unless administration is looking for something else.
Can I ask one quick question before we go on, just to clarify things?
Sure.
Dr. Sanko, is this survey an initiative of the administration or was it suggested from the board?
I don't know if I know the answer to that. All I know is it's something I'm passionate about, have been for years and years and years, and so.
Did the board ask you to do it?
The survey, no, I want to do the survey. I was the one who wanted to do the survey. That is absolutely, that is 100% me.
Thank you.
I insisted.
So who made the executive decision to put it on an agenda as we don't even have to vote on it? No, it's fine.
All right, in regards to, I'm going to just kind of refocus, in terms of students first always, we talk about classroom, community, and culture. When we're talking about the education of our students and our children here in Council Rock, 10,500 whereabouts, We're talking about removing as many barriers to learning for them to succeed in their academic careers, beginning from kindergarten all the way through 22 here in Council Rock. You know, and the classroom setting, there's the academics of books, but there's also different things that, you know, in some aspects for students are more impactful from a day-to-day basis and create barriers to their learning. You know, whether that's having a tough time in the morning on the bus, whether they didn't get the right breakfast that they wanted, whether they didn't get the right shoes on, whether they go to the lunch or recess and they had a friend that was their friend yesterday and not their friend today and didn't want to play with them, and I could go on. You know, I think some of the concerns in terms of, I hear manage, reduce stress. This is again about one program, one step that the district wants to implement to remove a possible barrier to student learning and success. In terms of the survey, it was definitely led by Dr. Black. She introduced it, talked about the CASEL system. She also talked about the survey questions coming from CASEL, CASEL, for anyone that wanted to look it up, which is a recognized, researched, evidence-based nonprofit program. They partner with many districts around the nation. She wanted the survey from, you know, to create almost a tailored program, right? If there's 99 programs, we can almost pick and choose based upon a potential program to, you know, that discusses our strengths in the district and discusses the areas of need based upon our specific culture of our community. We know that no one program is going to be the answer to everything, but this is something that can be implemented throughout the district, K to 22. It will probably most likely look different from K to 8 to then high school and then the 18 to 22. You know, we talked about providing resources, toolkits, common language I've heard across from various programs, academic and not, and providing that equal access to all of our students, no matter where they are in the district, no matter who they have as a teacher, and no matter what issues that they come, you know, outside the classroom setting and from home or anywhere else related to their learning. We didn't even get to talk about, you know, Dr. Black, when she goes back and does some of her work, there's going to be a time factor, implementation factor, training of our teachers, and then also a cost, you know, factor that she'll be with her committee and team discussing and considering before she comes back to discuss the survey data, the MTSS data, the PACE survey data, the Swiss data. There's a lot of data that will be presented in the next meeting. I guess at this point, out of respect to moving the meeting, this was the last item, and then we'll move to public comment. And thank you for those of you that are still here and listening. Are we looking, Dr. Sanko, for head nods to move forward with the survey? Or?
Well, I think we heard a lot of comments tonight on this. I heard comments about expanding it, I heard comments about seeing all of the questions. We can go back and do that work and bring it back. We can go back and do that work and have Dr. Black get it to the full board through me. You know, there were some suggestions tonight to make some changes to the survey. Or if the board wants to direct us to you know, move forward with doing this work, we'll do that. We'll do that work and then bring it back to you here in the next month, at the next committee meeting.
Okay. So I think for the sake of the survey, it seems that with the discussion, is it possible to get all 5 or 6 questions to the board for review? And then at this point, we want to go, considering that we want to take a look at that, I guess, all 6 questions before we want to give head nods. Is that the general consensus? Ms. Horner?
Ms. Stone had a great point. to clarify to the introduction, to make sure that that was clear.
An expanded introduction.
Expanding it. She had a great point.
Okay, so an expanded introduction.
Yeah.
So then are we looking to expand the introduction and share all of the questions with the rest of the board? Then we're looking to bring it back for discussion and re-presentation of the survey in October? Ms. Polly?
Can I make a suggestion?
Sure.
Because we've been through surveys in the past.
Correct.
So usually the administration creates the survey. I mean, for full day kindergarten, it was an outside vendor. And then usually, if I remember correctly, you send it to the board and you solicit our input. Then you gather the information and you, as a professional, you take the survey, take our input, change things that you think need to be changed, and then you administer the survey. I mean, we are not here to create survey language. I mean, the truth is, it's like a science by itself, right? Like survey creation and, administration. I mean, this is not a random sample going back to Mr. Richard's point. This is like everybody's going to receive it. And hopefully you get enough responses. So, I mean, let's do it the way we've done it in the past. You send the survey out to us and we give you our feedback. I mean, that would be I've seen all the questions. I think it would be a good idea to have them all the questions tonight at the presentation. I agree. They are very similar to this one. It's a very simple survey, I mean, in my opinion. And then, we can take it from there.
She's saying.
If that's okay with the rest of the board.
I have a question.
So second.
What's the timeline after the survey? What happens then?
So I would like to convene a committee to take a look at all of the data together and available programs that kind of match the data and start to narrow down and look at them differently. You asked for a timeline, that would probably take a few months, I would think.
So it's really no big deal if we push a month or whatever.
Mr. Hidalgo?
Did you guys discuss implementation? Because obviously, it's not whether or not we do or don't, but what we're gonna choose from a list. That's what I heard tonight. So my question would be, because to me, I said it in the what's the rush? How all of a sudden did this just become like something that was jammed down our throats that half the board hasn't even seen the questions and you guys were ready to put the survey out? Why didn't you provide the board with the questions beforehand? And why did you omit some from the slides and some not?
Honestly, because I did share, in the spring, I shared with you what these 5 questions would be, so I really did think this was going to be a review. The questions aligned, if you remember, I know it's a long time ago, but on the left, there were the effective outcomes, and I showed you the 5. And the first one, there are actually 6. The first one was improved academic performance. We, as a group, said that one's not relevant, and so the other 5 are what you see
Okay,
here.
so
I
it's
didn't
just
think
an
it was.
extension of the program from the spring, which is, I guess, maybe part of the issue because, I guess it's just assuming that we just remember everything from all the meetings.
I apologize.
And SEL, obviously, as Mrs. Khan said, is a very sensitive subject. For whatever reason, I still don't know. But thank you. I think, as I said, I think we can take it to the board meeting or even push it to the next committee meeting. Give us some time to breathe.
Just a quick question. When you mentioned this group Castle or whatever, are they the only option as far as if it ever gets to this point of remediation?
No, as I said, I'm open to anything, but they are, I think there were some questions about effective programs, and they actually are the nonprofit national organization that does research as a third party, does research on these programs. And so they're the ones who tell you which programs have effective outcomes. Absent that, you have the companies themselves paying for research, and that's biased, obviously, usually. So this is a third party doing the research, and that's why it's generally, that's what.
I'll ask it just because it's just my own opinion. Do you ever look at like faith-based programs?
Have
I mean, when you talk about social emotional learning, this is me and it's another gross generalization. The two biggest things that I don't think people have and contribute to our problems is faith and family. And without that foundation, this is probably the reason why this is a nationwide and probably a worldwide problem. And we don't want to attack the actual root of the problem, which is people have no faith and the family structure isn't what it should be. And we lose all that foundation. And once that foundation's gone, everything above it crumbles. And you can try all you want to build it all up, but if you don't have it, it's not going to be there. So if we're looking into solutions, maybe we should start looking into things where we're building the foundation and not just remedies. So as I said, when you look at solutions, are we going to look at anything like that's maybe family-based, faith-based, and I'm not looking for a particular denomination. But, and whether or not you're allowed to talk about it in a public setting, I don't know. But that's, like I said, my opinion.
Got 2 amendments.
Okay.
I just wanted to thank Dr. Black for her work, and I appreciate what you do. And I want to apologize if you feel like you were a little bit on the receiving end tonight, but we do appreciate your work.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Black.
Thank you. So just for clarification, the questions will be shared, all the questions will be shared to the board, along with a little more of the intro, and then
The third one I heard was around definitions to the word.
clarify the definition a little bit more, and then share it with the board, and we'll proceed forward. Okay. Sorry, it's 10, yeah, it's late. Ms. Crawford, are we moving on? We can move on?
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. So we already hit on, thank you, we already hit on some of the upcoming topics. We will discuss multiple data points, MTSS, Swiss data, PACE data, as we've typically done. Our 2024 PSSA Keystone and AP results will be reviewed. Ms. Gary's going to be discussing the curriculum review process. We're going to be discussing the Heart Safe Schools initiative and the topic of cyber safety and baby awareness.
Great, thank you. Thank you so much. There's public comment. So at this point, just a reminder, if you can make public comment, to please try to respect the 3-minute time limit. I'll give you a 30-second warning. If you have public comment, please state your name and township. And I'll start over there by the door if there's anyone that wishes.
I'm Nicole Gilchrist from Newtown Township. First, I apologize if I'm not as organized. I'm tired, like you probably are, and I didn't prepare anything in advance. So first, I want to thank the board members who came to the Special Education Committee meeting on Tuesday. Your support is very much appreciated. And also thank you for talking about it tonight. Related to this discussion tonight, thank you for asking great questions. Related to the questions that Ms. Osecki and Mr. Hidalgo asked, centered around bringing kids back to their home schools. I just wanted to make a couple of comments about those. I guess there's been a lot of discussion that says it's individualized. And while, yes, an IEP, the I stand for individualized, there are practices and policies that are connected and programming that connect all of us, and that needs work. There's an urgent need for quality professional development. So when we say things about bringing our kids home, it can be done. We just have to learn how to do it. So related to that, a couple of things. Special education is really just good general education, and we heard that referenced throughout here. We heard that in, now I'm drawing a blank on whatever was brought up earlier, but that was that universal design for learning benefits everyone. Special education is really just access to general, or special education is access to general education. Services are portable. That's not my concept, that's a special education law. Services are meant to be brought to the student. Services can be brought to every school. Teachers can be trained in every school. We do have great teachers. We have wonderful teachers. Let's support them with the training they need to to improve our inclusion. So the other thing I heard over and over from multiple of you, which I won't say, even like Mr. Tate, Mr. Roosevelt, data-driven decisions. The data's in, guys. We have 9 years worth of data that says we are not doing good in including our kids. We are failing related to other Bucks County districts. We saw that on Tuesday, right? So I just wanted to share related to that. This is Central Bucks. Central Bucks is also not performing on target, but they're beating us. Central Bucks put this email out less than 2 weeks ago to their entire community. I know I'm tired. I know we don't have a lot of time. I just wanted to read a couple of sentences because it's so on target with what we heard tonight. This is, again, signed from the superintendent and their director of people services, I guess, which is the equivalent of special services.
30 seconds.
The district has been working to create a continuum of special education services in all schools to ensure students with disabilities can be educated in their home schools and alongside their peers. Inclusion shows, this is from Central Bucks, is shown to boost not only academic performance, social interaction, self-regard, and behavior in students with disabilities, but it also benefits their peers without disabilities to align services and programs for students with disabilities in district-wide curriculum, instruction, assessment, and professional development. They committed to ensuring students with disabilities have access to general education curriculum. We are not doing that, and that's been brought to everyone in this room's attention multiple times. The other thing, there's a lot of great stuff that Central Bucks committed in action. Their special ed plan is due the same that ours is, so their portal's not open either. But guess what? They sent this and they committed publicly to their community what they're going to do. We can do that too. We don't have to wait for some weird portal to open like we heard Tuesday. The other thing that they mentioned, they're providing professional development and coaching for teachers. They're monitoring and valuing progress outcomes using data. So again, like, it's not that this isn't happening, we're just not doing it here. We have 9 years worth of data. I don't know why we're not analyzing it for special ed. We make data-based decisions on everything except special ed. Why? So while I think we're off to a good start, we had good attendance at Tuesday's meeting, we saw that there are issues. I think now we need to have some momentum. We had so much really long discussion on a 5-question survey. Let's see this energy for 1,700 special ed kids who we have data shows we're not really providing educational excellence. So I look forward to hopefully having conversations with all of you on how we can work together to do better for all of our kids. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other?
I just want to,
Yes.
sorry.
Can you just state your name and your township, please?
I'm really tired.
Yes.
Teresa Stone, Newtown Borough. I just wanted to kind of get more clarification on the Special Education Parent Advisory Committee for a couple of reasons, but I guess the main reason was this is the first time tonight that we learned that Pat and the IU will be included on that committee. And then there's also 6 to 8 people who responded to the committee. So I know I serve on several committees in my community, and I've never been on a committee that large. So I'm wondering what kind of role the parents are going to have. Will there be roles within that committee? What will that look like? Is there a mission statement for the committee? What is the parents' involvement? Will there be subcommittees? Is the special education plan, because the committees that I'm on, like the education committee, we have sections or different things that we discuss. Is the special education plan only a part of that? Is that like a breakout of that? Are we discussing like inclusion and other things? Like, what is this really going to look like? I guess that's the confusion that I have, and I'm just looking for answers with that.
Thank you. Any other? Yes.
Hi, Jennifer Hidalgo with Northampton. So I'm listening. First of all, I'm just learning about all this. I don't really pay much attention until I'm here. So, but as a parent, my child has gone through the school district, nonverbal, special needs. Okay, and I've been through this district. I've been in more IEP meetings than probably anybody in this room except for the education. These kids are individualized because each and every one of them have individual needs. The district has done a phenomenal job with my children. A phenomenal job, okay? So I understand that there are a lot of kids that do need help, and there's a lot of parents I speak to that do struggle. I'm here as an advocate for any of those parents, okay? Because I've been there, I lived it, I know the system inside and out, up and down, through and through. I know what they need to do when the kids age out. I know what they need to do to prepare for them aging out. I don't know, you talk about passion, about special education. There's nobody more passionate than parents who have kids with special needs, okay? And, I guess you're going, through that, I just want to put myself out there as somebody that any parent can go to and ask questions and understand what's going on. Now, my concern is that if a child doesn't have an IEP and you're going through this survey and you're finding issues based on 6 questions, and then you have 99 solutions to provide for them, and if they don't have an IEP, you're just going to push that kid into that program because the parents at that point aren't going to be involved if they don't have an IEP, from what I understand. So how does that kind of coincide with special education? Those are big questions. And I think everybody out there who's listening should hear what I'm saying and question. And then do the research, because I was sitting here reading about CASEL. I want to know more. What is it? I want every kid to have the opportunity. My kids that struggle. And I can only speak for my own children. But I know that they need help with certain things, and the teachers have done a phenomenal job in providing them with the help they need. So I don't see, in my personal opinion, where the issues are, but I just kind of want to have people open their minds, make sure they're doing their research, ask the questions, because there's a lot of questions going through my mind right now, and especially just why, and what is that motivation to push this? Because I'm sitting there and I'm wondering, why are we pushing ahead now? This is a big deal. This is much bigger than anybody even sitting here understands, I think, because I don't know if anybody has a kid as special as mine. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other? Yes.
Hi, Wendy Lucy, Upper Makefield. I first just want to formally and publicly thank Dr. Black for her work in social emotional learning. I was here in the spring when she presented on all of this. And not only at that time, but I was here, I don't know, I guess 3 years ago, when she presented it again. So to categorize this as something that's been rushed, when I've seen the dedication and the passion of her work, I think is a mischaracterization. So I, as a parent, just appreciate it. And I think, you are just trying to help our children thrive in this district, and there's nothing rushed about this. I understand that people have not seen all that they need to see. I hear you. But there's nothing rushed about your work, and I appreciate what you're doing.
Thank you. Any other comments? Public comments, public comments, Ms. Polly?
Well, I guess you can call it a public comment. So I just want to make a quick comment. There's been a lot of social media noise on the amount of legal fees the district has been paying this year, particularly as it comes to special education. As you can appreciate, we cannot discuss individual cases in public, but the board has scheduled a special executive session with our solicitor and the administration to review these cases and the reasons behind the increase in legal fees. As you know, that meeting is October 10th, 2 weeks from today, and it has been scheduled a long time ago, before Mr. Roosevelt made the comments at the last board meeting. But I can tell you that I've talked to the administration or solicitors several times on these issues, and I can report the following basic facts. Number one, our solicitors have done only what our district has asked them to do. Number two, the administration is very satisfied with the representation of Rudolph Clark and has not asked them to make any adjustments to their bills since the initial transition in January and February. And finally, I'm very happy with the proactive engagement that they have shown with families and their attorneys in resolving the backlog of special education matters left by Eastburn and Gray, our previous solicitor. The investment the district is making today with these families and their attorneys will and has already resulted in better outcomes for our students and a more collaborative process with the families. So Rudolph and Clark take seriously their support of the district and is living up to our motto of students first always. And again, I look forward to reviewing all of this in detail with all of you and the administration and our solicitors. And I know we have made requests for additional information. I have made requests, and I think the solicitors have made as well. So the board has the most updated information on these matters, with the understanding that a lot of it is private information that cannot be discussed in public. Would you like to add anything, Dr. Santos?
No, I agree with you. All of the cases are unique, and due to confidentiality reasons, we cannot discuss them in public.
But are you happy so far with the help and the support you received from Rudolph and Clark on these cases?
Yes, and, from my interactions with Peter Amusos, mostly who I interact with, he's been prompt and responsive, yes. And I know in special services, we have some other attorneys in tax issues. Tony Rapp deals with some other attorneys and writes with the right to knows. We deal with another attorney from Rudolph Clark.
Okay, thank you.
What did that have to do with tonight's meeting?
Yeah, is this public comment still?
I'm free to make a public comment, right?
That wasn't a public comment, that was a presidential.
There was.
I just wanted to make a comment.
All right, we are,
That was not a public comment.
we are ready to adjourn.
Thank you.
Brian Spence, Northampton. Thank you for your public comment, but really, the issue isn't maybe necessarily, and I don't think you guys are talking about, the issue isn't necessarily with the lawyer, it's with those over there with your special ed issues. We've complained to you a lot about it, so when you have your executive discussion, remember, we have taught you, you guys have brought on this problem yourself, failed to listen to all these parents. Parents, the last thing they want to do is get lawyers involved. They don't. It's the last step. The problem is a little here. It's you guys. So you fix it. That's it.
Thank you. We are good to adjourn? Okay, meeting adjourned.